everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bitcoin and Altcoin Trading Talk. I'm your host, Joe, with Coinigy here, joined by the wonderful Mr. Brian Beamish from TheRationalInvestor.com. How you
Doing the
doing
garb. Doing the garb.
today? There we go.
Gee, I think I need a TRI fishing hat. That would actually be pretty cool.
I love that idea.
I've got on my Munchin beer drinking hat tonight because it's party time, boys and girls.
Yes, sir. I mean, it's still October, so Oktoberfest is
Oh yeah, I
not
guess
over.
technically it is Oktoberfest,
It
right?
is.
So
We should have done a Halloween episode. You're dressed up, you got the fisherman hat on, so I should have tossed on a
maybe,
couple.
well, maybe. What is it? Are we gonna meet before Halloween again? I don't know. Well, I guess it
Halloween's
is. Jesus, look at that! It's almost the end of October.
25th already, yeah.
Man,
Month
I
went
guess
by
so. This
quick.
is our Halloween episode.
Yes, sir. Well, everyone, Adam, hello. Drew, hello. Welcome back. Happy to see you guys here.
Hey, we got our regulars. There's Adam.
There we go. Well,
Californians. Actually,
first things,
his buddy Ed is just kicking it in futures trading land. So very impressed with the Californians these days.
love to hear that.
Yeah.
I mean, first things first, what a week for crypto. I mean, as you can see there on the
Yeah.
homepage of Coinigy, Bitcoin up 20.818%. What is that? Litecoin's up 11% there, and your favorites just going across there. So it's been a kind of a wild week. Even Ethereum's up 14%. You can see the
Yeah. You can
in the
see 'em all
Coinigy,
right
your
across here.
favorites go along there, and you can also see your balances and open orders there on the homepage.
Yeah. Let's see. Am I rich yet? No. I'm not quite sure. Oh, yeah, look at that. I've got a whole bunch of Doge in the account. That's kind of cool.
There you go.
I did. So this is compliments of Coinigy. Jeez, my account's
I
looking
mean,
pretty
that
good.
must have been
Hey,
some.
Podcoin, you remember? Were you even
Yeah, we
around
talked about
crypto
that.
for the marijuana coins?
There, it was a craze back in the day. I do.
Oh man, we made some crazy ass money on those funny names. Actually, I always liked Mona. Mona was sort of the Japanese meme coin.
Interesting.
And they're really big on Hello Kitty over there, right? They love cats. And so Mona, its logo is a cat. And so it was always like Doge is the dog and Mona is the cat. And obviously, you know who came along and corrupted Doge. But Mona is
best
still
friend
actually
there.
pretty pure. So, and actually, interesting side story. I'm hearing a lot of talk, and I actually really like the idea that actually Bitcoin was actually created by the Japanese and Japanese programmers. I kind of like that. That
like
does
that.
resonate with me.
I just looked up the
Anyway.
Monacoin logo. You're right. It says even on there, it says Monacoin 2014. So it's got its own timestamp on its coin.
Yeah, Mona's been around, and actually most of these that we had on the balances, because keep in mind, I've been in doing this here with you guys basically since 2013, 14.
Yeah, it's crazy. Next May's our 10th birthday for Coinigy. So
Yeah,
we've
remarkable.
been around the block for a decade, coming up on a decade now. I know.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. We're right around there. So another 6 months and out till then. But
Yeah.
I'm sure it was about 10 years ago by now, William and Rob were working those long hours after their day job, just starting to code and hitting the ground running with Coinigy from the building it
Yeah.
ground up. So
Yeah.
been going on longer than 10 years, but crazy times. And a lot has
Yeah.
happened in the crypto markets over those 10 years too. So it's
Yeah, in
funny.
fact, actually, when we first did that, if anybody follows my funny little Twitter feed, of course, I'm a little bit of a salty character. But this actually was a big milestone for me. We made that bet back in 2000, I think it was 2014, with, I think it was Will.
Yeah.
We were doing this show, and I took the bet, and we actually hit the target there in June of 2017.
And then some.
Yeah, well, actually, this was a fun little account. It was on Trex. I don't know whether you remember Trex, but
RIP.
Well, I mean, they're
Oh,
still
they're still
technically
around, but they
alive.
kicked you out of Canadians and same with the U.S. They're out now. I used to be on Trex, but
Yeah.
I
So
got
we don't
that
really
letter
have this
saying,
account anymore. And actually, we even wound down the Canadian company that this was all built on.
yeah,
But it was an interesting challenge, and if anything, here we are. And actually, a guy named Warren Buffett. You ever heard of Warren Buffett?
once or twice.
He's a really big fan of a study called the decennial study.
ECN. Tell me
And
about
it
that.
basically says that if you break the decades apart and you plot what the price action of an entire decade looks, it actually looks incredibly similar. Decade after decade after decade after decade. So, what do years that end in 2 usually look like? What do years that end in 7 usually look like? It's remarkable how consistent it is. And ironically enough, right, we got this thing going in 13, 14. Well, here we are.
Yeah.
23, 24. 24 is coming up on us pretty quick. So there's
Yes,
really
sir.
no reason why we can't do the whole damn thing all over again. The only difference this go round is last decade, the banksters were basically on their knees and they weren't really an impediment to people like us that were in the marketplace. And they actually sort of put up with the cryptocurrency kind of community. It was emerging technology, and the U.S. economy desperately needed to grow from any source possible. Um, this decade, it's a slightly different story. So it'll be interesting to see how the 20s evolve. But from what I understand, the fabric of our society, everything about our society by 2030, 2035, our society itself should look dramatically different than what this society looked like 10, 20 years ago.
Definitely. And I mean, even just with Bitcoin itself, seeing from where it was 10 years ago, it's got its footing in the industry. I mean, obviously, you saw some big upspurs back in the day, multiple bull runs and bear runs over the course of the last 10 years, but it's been a green week here for the traders, and we had some W's confirmed on some.
Yeah,
Like
a lot
we
of
had
W's.
Link. We had discussed in previous episodes, Chain Link, and we had some alarms set for some price alarms
That was
that
one name. I know there was another one. That old little piece of crap coin. What the hell was that thing? Verge.
yeah,
And that used to, I think
XDG.
actually that used to be like a porn industry coin, if I'm not mistaken.
You have to click.
Actually, it's only on Trex. Is it only on Trex?
No, yours on your favorites. You have to click on all for the
Oh,
all
there we
tab
go.
there.
And I even suggested that you just keep an eye on this one.
Yes,
This one would be a good proxy for you to learn off of. And it's fascinating. Let's see if we can just find a half decent chart. This is basically everything that I try to teach you guys. Can you see I even said,
yeah. Hey, there's that
watch the W level. We have to risk against the bottom of the W. And look at that cute little W that just came in there. Holy
W
moly.
inside of W.
Look at that, eh?
Yeah.
So, this
Up,
this is
down.
a Schult coin, right? It's
Yeah.
it is what it is. But yeah, the link was probably a very good example of. I don't know. Can you use the word blue chip in crypto? That's kind of pushing it a bit. But
Whatever you want to
some
call
of
it.
the
It had quite the week.
sort of, I don't know, reputable research people in the space, they kind of like Link. One guy in particular that I like to listen to, Chico Crypto. He's kind of a
Yes,
fun
sir.
character. He was bullish of this kind of thing for quite a while. But I think we even talked about this level here. Just keep an
Yep,
eye on
that
a break
level,
of
I
that
think it
level, eh?
was, I want to say
And
eight.
there she goes. Woohoo! Party.
Yeah, let me see.
So, and the interesting thing is this. Some people might look at this and go, "Wow, that's a high price." Well, in reality, actually, And I don't know whether this is the best place to be looking at this. What is this? Binance US? That's probably where is
I'd
sort of
say
regular
maybe try
Binance?
that KuCoin or
Actually, I'm a bit surprised. This isn't actually listed on Binance regular. That's a bit surprising. Maybe I'm just
I'm
not
sure it
seeing it.
is.
But KuCoin, I guess that might Coinbase probably is a pretty good place to look at
Yeah.
this. So yeah, I mean, if this is a really good. Oh no, so that doesn't even have the highs. Where is the chart that can actually show us the highs?
Let's scroll down
Um,
there.
Maybe Kraken. Kraken's
Yeah,
usually has quite a
Kraken's
bit of
always
data.
good. We've had them for a long time.
Look at that percentage move. 4,569%. Wow, that's a bit of a move. All right, yeah, so here's not a bad example. I mean, look how high this thing was. So, if you look at that kind of image, is the story finishing here? Or is
No,
maybe the story just getting started?
just getting started. We love to see those ones that started up real high. What was that up to? Like 51, 50
Yeah,
ish?
that high right there is, yeah, 52, I see.
52?
50, what is that? Yeah, let's call it 52, $53. Yeah, that's pretty damn
Yeah.
high, eh? And of course, really, really good analogy. I mean, what a pretty W, right? So when you look back in hindsight,
Yeah.
you want to take a screenshot and just say, okay, well, that Beamish guy says I should probably be thinking about hunting W's. I mean, that's you know, maybe one of these
This
days
is
I'll
what we're
teach a
talking
course on how
about.
to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Because
Maybe.
that's exactly what I would teach people to look for.
Exactly.
uh,
And yeah, you in a previous episode we were saying that breakout level was I can have it up here from on my phone. It's the Link USDT broke out. I got it
Should be right from here, whatever
8.47.
that number is there. Boom.
Yeah, yeah, I had two set 8.44 and then 8.47 were ones
Yeah,
that had.
8.437171. This happens to be on crack, and of course, every site's
Yeah.
different, right? And
So
actually, this pattern itself is actually, I think we even talked about when this one had happened, is there's sort of your teacup,
yeah, and then the handle.
and this is your handle of the teacup. And actually, that's a pretty typical price pattern. It's what bulls want to see. The only problem
Before
is most people like. I mean, how many people in the public are barking about crypto right now? Not many. And the hard part about my job is when we get into this. I'll be banging out doubles and hey, look at all the money I'm making and stuff. But you're gonna have a lot of
I
people
can't
that are
wait
gonna
for
be coming
those.
in brand new to the space here. And the sad part about it is that somebody had to be a buyer up there. Somebody had to buy. And quite often they're actually buying my sell orders, which is kind of tragic. There's one recently. It's running
That's
as
on
we
them for not
speak.
taking your course.
Well, yeah. I mean, and it's the weirdest thing, right? Because the market is basically a reflection of society.
Yeah.
So if these prices are moving up here, what do you think society is generally doing? Is society feeling good? Is society, is the economy booming? Are people making lots of money and
They're
stuff and they
feeling
can
good.
afford to put money into the market?
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is we actually usually sell most of our courses in this market up here. And then I have to spend the whole bloody time saying, okay, now put your money away.
Yep.
This is a terrible time to be spending your money in the market.
Cool your jets.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And actually, we just had that scenario in Bitcoin, but then, and actually, I even talked about it in the video that I did on the site today, that where we actually
Really?
had anecdotal evidence from the market that that whole cool your jets kind of environment was over. So I don't know. Do we want to go and look at Bitcoin and pick it apart a little bit?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's jump on in.
Let's
It's
do this.
I know when we were talking about the episode earlier in the week, I was pretty pumped about to kind of dive in and see what we're looking at now. I mean, obviously it jumped up like $4,000 in a couple of hours.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I
This
guess,
is
is this
running.
like a weekly print? Is that what this is?
Yeah.
So it's up 1,600 bucks already so far this week. Boom. There you go. Up,
Mhm.
up, and away. And
Yeah.
actually, we even also did, and I don't know whether this is the best place to look at this. What is this? This is Bitstamp looking at Tether. I think normally we'd just look at it versus USD, eh? Whoops, did something wrong there. BTC USD. Yeah, you know me. 1,600 bucks. Hey, there we go. Actually, there's a lot of really good learning material out of this, like a lot of really good learning material. So strap
Let's
on
dive
your
in.
feed bags, people. We got actually a lot of stuff to talk about here tonight, if we have time.
If we have time. But everyone, be sure to have your journal out in
Yeah,
front of
you
you,
better.
and
In fact, actually, and I don't know whether the swag store is still up and running, but in our swag store, if you do like to journal manually, we even have this really cool journal. I don't know whether you can see on the camera. In our swag, opportunity
yeah,
is now here. This is the TRI official journal. And it actually even has the Benner cycle. Can you see that? I don't know whether you can see that or not on the
yeah, I
camera.
can.
And the interesting thing is, and Josh did a whole blog write up and the whole thing on the Benner cycle. And ironically enough, this is
Accumulation
the
year.
time when we're supposed to be accumulating our corner lots, getting ready for the next bull market. So I guess, us seeing what we see on the chart here makes sense.
Yeah.
So where do we want to begin this conversation? First and foremost, I was very worried. Of course, I love to worry. You can always tell a good technician because they're always worried. I mean, the worst part about the market, right, is that it's designed to take away as much money from as many people as much of the time as possible.
Exactly.
So as a result, you're always looking for the rug pull, right? Rug pull, rug pull. When's it going to come? Where's the next rug pull going to come? So I'm always leery. And unless I actually get like a bottom, a nice W at the very bottom end of the range with a big fat bullish divergence, color me skeptical. So, I mean, that's just the way that I am. So, we were kind of conjecturing how was this consolidation that we saw over, and this was like 32 weeks. This is a
Yeah.
very long, long period of just basically the market going sideways here. And how was this sideways consolidation going to resolve itself? Um, this could potentially, and this was my fear, turn into some big honkin' head and shoulders event. And if we had the right shoulder come in here, and then we break through the neckline, then spaghettios.
Yeah.
And I even did sort of conjecture, were we going to get this kind of price action where this was the 2020 bottom. And of course, this was the sickness dump. So, I mean, for lack of a better term, I think we can officially say, since we know that that pattern's been broken, that that is no longer on the table. What was also interesting too about this consolidation was we had a bunch of sort of, while this was going sideways, maybe you better just cool your jets.
Hmm.
So we had things like you can see this RSI study was making lower highs here. Actually, that's OBV, beg your pardon. OBV was making lower highs. MACD was making lower highs. We even had M's come in here making lower highs. There's our RSI making lower highs. So we were quite concerned, especially through this event up here. Why is RSI not making higher highs? And we had the Williams percentage R actually flash sort of overbought signs. And then I don't know whether did we, no, we didn't technically get an overbought sign here. Yeah, not quite. But a little bit of a concerning the fact that we went to new highs here, but we didn't see like new highs on these momentum indicators or the OBV. So as this is sort of playing itself out, if we use the OBV as an example,
Mm-hmm.
As you see this kind of message from the market, it's sort of like, you know what? You're probably best just to cool your jets.
The
Just
divergence.
relax. Don't get all excited here. And especially when we start getting all these M's and stuff, maybe just leave this stuff alone. Just let it settle down. But then notice this basically played itself out. And how do we see that? It played itself out by the market actually going down, up, down. And at this point, of course, we're all like, oh, this guy's going to fall. Look out, like. But
But it
all of a
wants
sudden, look at what happened.
the
Down, up,
breakout.
down, breakout. I mean, that is an impressive move.
Yeah,
Hopefully you can see. Here, let's just hide the volume for the time being. That's a big W.
it
And then
is
we had even another little W over on the
inside.
side here. So this is like a W within a W. So that makes this kind of price pattern, right? And that's what I did with the arrow. And that's how these sort of bearish divergences play themselves out is you got to wait for the indicator to get out of sort of overbought, the top end of the zone, back down to the bottom end of the zone, and then we got to start seeing W's. And sure enough, they came in spades. You might even argue too on the MACD indicator, you see the same sort of thing where, did I do that right? Yeah, there we go. Down, up. We even put in a little M here, like, oh boy, we got trouble. And boom!
Boom, breakout.
Blasted it up through the middle part. And this creates a big W as well. So this is, if you are, fancy yourself a technician, this is, what we want to see out of the indicators to break that bearish sort of leaning, the whole cool your jets kind of idea through here. When you start seeing these W's, you might even argue that's an inverted head and shoulders. And then that cute little W right on the side. Remember we talked about Link looked like a little teacup? Well, you can make the argument that the indicators kind of look teacuppy here and blasting higher. I would also say too, we could even go up to like maybe a little higher time frame, 3-day chart. Let's see if we can load that. And do you see the W coming in here on the MACD?
Do.
So down, up, down, pow, woohoo!
Oh.
And what's
Ooh.
interesting about this is you can see for quite a while, momentum here has been, I would call this coiling. Have you ever heard the term coil?
I don't think so.
So if you think of like the way a snake coils up, getting ready to pounce, you can see how the energy of the market is building, 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 building. You might even go off of here. That's a tough one. But it tried to break to the downside, couldn't, and then violently jackknifes higher. The only problem with this study, and you can kind of see it over here, and this is going to kind of rain on the parade, so I'm sorry, but oh well, technician loves to do that. You can kind of see how there was a coil that built through this period. And usually what happens with these coils is they build to some sort of crescendo, and then you get an absolutely wild resolution, right? In this particular case, it was all the way down and then all the way up, huge. So to think of this as energy building, and I think this is another example of energy building, and we've broken out one side. We probably go zooming up, and then we come zooming back down. That's probably what's going to happen here. But having said that, hey, we're in the bull phase. The market's rocking and rolling, so let's enjoy the ride while it lasts, right?
Yep.
So
Shut down.
some pretty important momentum resolutions here to the upside. And, this is why I built the Willy. Let's see. You and I have been working together for a while now. Let's see if you're cluing in. Is the market overbought now? Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe think about that for a moment.
So wait,
Yeah.
wait. The
So
Willy,
here we'll
the
go,
top.
and the Willy indicator, by definition, is really the moving average.
Hmm.
So maybe what we should do is that. I don't know whether you can see that. Maybe I'll make this like white so you can see that. Now, is this market officially stupidly overbought or
Oh,
oversold?
no. I
Yeah, it's
was
kind of
looking at
just sort
you.
of sitting middle
Yeah.
of the road, really.
Was that
Overbought
the
would be way up here. Oversold would be way down here. So, if you just look at price, let's put a vertical line when Willie was stupidly oversold down there.
hmm
And we'll put a vertical line, or yeah, vertical. You always want to remember those. When Willie was stupidly overbought. So let's see what price did. That was here. It's getting pretty washed out. Not bad. And here. That was the start of we better cool our jets here through the summer, right? So I don't think that we're actually officially stupidly overbought yet. And of course, at market tops, you can see Willie just like parks himself up top here.
yeah.
Um, this looks like it's got some legs. You know that's got a bit of room to run there. I will admit, if you're a market structure follower, that we do have basically a downtrend here working in this particular momentum indicator. So we're probably going to run into some traffic around this level. It wouldn't surprise me if there's some back and forth here. But we're not officially stupidly overbought. So that
Yeah.
means as a broker, if I was sitting there, I wouldn't have to worry right now about all my clients calling up and just panic buying. Brian, just buy it, just buy it. I know that they're not going to be calling yet. They will be calling when we get up here, absolutely. And I don't know whether we were recording when I asked you this earlier. It might have been before we were recording. But is the public really that interested in crypto right now? I don't
No,
think so.
not
I
particularly.
don't really
They're
hear
always
it too much.
interested when it's up, when it's the highest. When it's still not at all-time highs, they're
Yeah, well, and
only
then also
interested.
too, what'll get the public coming in is ironically enough when and Link is probably a good example. When we start seeing our altcoins start to make absolutely insane. Actually, it's a good example. What I think was a really good leading indicator, and we should have been sort of when we saw this, we should have been like, all right, get ready. The shit's about to start to fly here. Um, maybe I should let the computer just think itself through here. But we had that Loom. Remember Loom went absolutely crazy there. And I think you're probably going to see a lot of these coins kind of do this similar type price action.
Quick reset.
So I think Loom was a bit of a harbinger, believe it or not. Let's see, can I do this? Oh, there we go. So Loom, USDT. Let's see if I hit enter.
I don't know. It's one of
No,
the
still
things.
thinking. All right. Well,
I just sent you something I saw on in Discord. I sent you something. The Bitcoin, the meme of when people are buying at 30, the number of people trying to buy at 33 for 64.
yeah.
Ain't that
Yeah,
the
in
truth?
fact, actually, this is an absolutely perfect analogy of capitalism. It's kind of sad, really. In fact, like I've been tweeting out recently that there's people on social media and stuff that are actually saying, well, Bitcoin's the only cryptocurrency you should own and everything else is crap and blah, 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 blah. And that is right here. Is buying altcoins really worth it? Is BTC the only true crypto investment choice? So as soon as I start seeing that, that's the cue for me that I got to start buying the altcoins.
I'm just glad that it doesn't
And
have a bunch of upvotes compared to comments there.
no, oh, you mean this year?
Yeah,
Yeah.
at least people
I
aren't agreeing with them.
I think that, and keep in mind our community is they're like all over. So somebody grabbed a screenshot of this and posted it in our lounge. It'd be interesting to actually go back and look at this and see what these kind of numbers are now. My hunch
Yeah.
is they're probably a lot higher. But all right, we got the system back here. So just to show you what I'm worried about, remember that
Yeah.
comment about MACD and the way it goes zooming up and then zooming back down?
Yeah.
So what I'm worried about here, and I could very easily see it happen. This is crypto. It is venture capital. But you might find on a lot of these altcoins, if this is going to load,
Yeah.
that you get a situation like Loom. I could easily see something like that. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just open up a new tab. I do notice that sometimes I tax the system a little bit hard. All right. Okay.
You have to click on the all tab at the top there.
There we
There
go.
you
I'm surprised it's not in my favorites.
go.
So,
Yeah.
we saw how that loom went zooming up, and everybody who participates in cryptocurrencies, you must respect this. You must understand that this is not a commentary on whether loom is a good idea or not. I mean, first and foremost, is it realistic to expect a 10x kind of growth? To consistently, day after day, it's just going to keep growing at that kind of rate? The answer
No.
is clearly no.
But yeah,
Um,
sell half on the double.
well, exactly. So the point here is, remember I showed you that chart of Link and how the public, exactly like this image, right? This image is basically this conversation. There was probably tons of people that were actually
On the
looking at this
couch.
up here going, hey, yeah, this is a good investment. This is a good quality product, right? This is why you can't chase. You're not allowed to chase. You just can't do it. Because if you do it, where do we say these people are sleeping right now?
Sleeping on the couch.
And they might be there a very, very long time. And who knows how long those people are going to be trapped there. But it's important that the viewers of this video understand this concept, because the irony of it all is what do you think the odds are that all they've done is just back price up into a new buying window?
Mm-hmm.
So if we do our good old reload zones, hey, there's Brian's favorite fib, 78.6. And what do we call the 78.6 to 88.6 fib zone? Do you
That
remember?
is the Mountain Man. Or no, that's the
No.
venture cap reload zone. Sorry.
Yeah, venture capital. And I don't know, you tell me, is this venture capital?
I'd say that's exactly where it is.
Yeah. If anything, this would be a great chart for you to go to show all your business school buddies.
It was
So
funny.
I might argue that this is actually acting very normally. Um, but the sad part about it is, where do you think the public is long? And the interesting thing is
Uh,
if we look at the volume pattern, we probably see, yeah. In fact, actually, probably the public was buying all of this right here, and then the market rolled over, and then the sellers came out in droves. And anybody who did buy up here, they were just panic dumping in here, which is so sad.
mhm.
But anyway, the point being that this was actually a nice tell for us. And this is usually what happens in the market, is that there are sort of, before the whole damn market lifts, there are leaders that are actually rallying. And, this is in the face. I mean, this is 10x on your money. I mean, you got to love Bitcoin. I think it went up like, what, 10, 20% or something here recently.
Yeah.
But did it do 10x?
No.
I don't think so. So the point here is this person is completely clueless. What was the date? I did that October 20th. Well, October 20th is basically right. And probably they put out this tweet on October 20th. That was right here. They probably bought up here. And they're like, this is all a scam, man. It's all a scam. I'm not buying any of this. I'm just going to buy Bitcoin. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Mind you, if you follow the whole W's kind of idea, I think you could probably see, hey, what's this letter of the alphabet right here? Right there. Down, up,
Up.
down, breakout.
Break
And
it.
if you're like super fancy schmancy, look at me, I'm a killer trader. Well, this is your ultimate bottom, right? Down, up, down, breakout. So, I mean, the irony of it all is, Somebody get the word out. Let's see if we can educate the public. These dotted lines are where you're supposed to belong. And even now, even if you didn't even sell anything, you're still up. What is that? Geez, that's over 200% on your money.
Yep.
If you had just bought where you're supposed to buy, you
Yeah.
know. So I mean, that's the irony of this game.
Yep.
Anyway, back to our story.
As I said,
So this was a very, very long consolidation. And as I had sort of pointed out, I was kind of thinking that maybe this was like the 2020 scenario and we'd have to come right back down to the bottom. I'm still very skeptical. I mean, I definitely don't think that there's value on Bitcoin at 35,000 when we know that the miners produce these things at somewhere between 10 and 20,000. So, what do you think is actually driving this move right now?
the Bitcoin ETF news,
Yeah,
I'd say,
I
with
definitely think
BlackRock.
that's it.
And Drew in the chat says, does BTC ETF affect any potential movement to the downside?
Well, I think what happens in the stock market, it's pretty typical, actually, commodity markets, all markets really. Buy and write this down, right? If you have all your journals, write this down because it is so time tested, it's ridiculous. The expression goes, buy the rumor,
Sell the news.
sell the news. But it also works the other way around. Sell the rumor, buy the news. So like in our level 1 program, we have one module on liquidity events. You could make the argument that the day that Bitcoin's ETF is approved, are there going to be any media outlets that are going to report on that?
Say that again.
The day that the Bitcoin ETF is approved, it's official.
Yeah.
Where
Oh,
the Bitcoin ETF spot price is coming.
yes.
And BlackRock Capital is going to be the monopoly and dominate this thing. And that's a whole conversation unto itself. Because I don't know whether a Bitcoin ETF is actually even a good thing or not. I might argue, especially the way that these oligarchs have. You could argue that a guy like Peter Fink has actually basically taken over the U.S. stock market. Or Larry Fink? What the hell's... I don't really like naming names, so I say the guy whose name rhymes with Dink.
Yeah.
So, not a
That's
commentary
Larry
on his
Fink.
personality, though.
Jerry
Anyway,
Jerry Dink.
yeah, Jerry Dink. We'll call him Jerry Dink. Anyway, and there's so many nuances to that, but I think the bottom line here is that he came out publicly and he said, "I want a Bitcoin ETF right here." Right? That was that event right there that stopped the selling. And what's interesting is usually they have like an old expression in the market, sell in May and walk away.
Walk away.
So if it wasn't for Mr. Finks coming out and publicly saying, "I want a Bitcoin ETF, I'm a big cat, fat cat, look at me," well, this correction might have kept going. That sort of stopped the slide. That did create that divergence situation, which to me was like, whoa, that's a cool your jets kind of thing. And sure enough, we had to come right back down to those lows. Then we started to W out, and the big question was, which way was this going to break? Was it going to break down, which confirms the head and shoulders, and then we'd have some serious technical damage done? Or was this thing going to break to the upside? And quite often, the apex of this fractal, it can break either way. It doesn't have to break one way or the other. So I did find that interesting, and I do see this repeatedly in my career, is that you just sit patiently and wait for these trading ranges to resolve themselves, and you just don't know which way this thing's going to break. And making a prediction of which way it is going to break actually can sometimes be foolhardy. And I think in this case, people that were overly bearish, I mean, obviously people that want to buy Bitcoin, they're like, yeah, man, drive the price down so we can get really, really cheap prices. Obviously, they're not going to see those prices now. But I did 3 different videos for you guys. Jesus, yeah, that's a better part of a year ago, I think, now
Yeah,
on
coming
this.
up on, I'd say probably 9 months ago at this
Right.
point.
So we did three different, and it was all about using this Fibonacci retracement tool in three different ways.
Precisely, yeah, we did a retracement, extensions, and
Okay.
chaos theory.
So, and what was interesting was the end result when we put all of the studies together, it actually painted some really interesting levels. So, if we do the retracement study first, then what by default should be, we should expect this level to be traded to at any given point in time.
The 50% retracement rule.
Yeah. I mean, 50%, that's WD GAN, and we should
Yeah,
expect markets to do 50%
yeah.
retracements. But like every move, like even this, and think of that as like over a 52-week range.
It's,
But like even just this right here, check this out. This is freaky.
uh,
And I like to call it, like I teach in my education programs, I call it the first
the
stop
first,
target.
yeah, the first stop target, 38.2.
38.2. So, I mean, just watch this. This is kind of cool. If we put 38.2 on here, here's my old eyes. I can't see where the hell it is on here.
It's right under the zero, right at the top
Right under
on
the
the
zero.
line.
There you go. Hey, you're so smart. All right. So check this out. Right, just off of this range, that high to that low. Notice, boom, 38.2. So it's like you should expect 38.2 retracements at any given point in time. Notice this rally from here, this low, back to there, boom, 38.2. So it's just, it consistently happens over and over and over. So would it make sense that we get a 38.2 bounce of this entire range just to find out whether this thing is, it doesn't even actually make a commentary on whether it's a new bull or a new bear. All it is, I mean, this is still a bear market.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people would argue that with me, but I would argue that this is still a bear. So the question is, where is that 38.2 bounce level that we should expect at any given point in time? There it is. So this is off of the stamp chart. I know a lot of people are kind of like, you still use stamp? What, are you crazy? I mean, we could do another market if that appeals to anybody in particular. Doesn't really matter to me, but I like Sam because it's
They got they
been
got
around a
data.
while. So what is 38.2? And let's just make sure these numbers are right. So
Magnetic there.
68, 69,000 even? Was that the high? Was it
I think
exactly right on the
that with
nose?
the wick, I think someone must have had one set in right on that.
Yeah, well, and actually, that's an interesting piece for your journals as well. Is that usually markets actually like to pivot off of really big, fat, round numbers.
BFRN.
Yeah. And, you know, one of the tells that maybe this top wasn't the top is that high there was $64,895. That's kind of a weird number, right? And what a surprise, this was exactly 69 G's. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this high from this previous cycle was it was at a really interesting number as well. I think it was like 19.
Previous cycle, I think the high was more like 18.
No, it was pretty close to 20. And I think it was
Okay.
the futures actually went above 20, but I think the spot market had topped out at like it was 19. It was like 1969 or something like that. It was a 69 as a sneaky habit of coming into the markets, and I think it's sort of the traders having sort of fun with the market.
Yeah. I
Um.
agree.
All right, come on, you chart. Are you gonna load?
And hello,
Uh,
Nico. Welcome. No worries if you're late. So we record them, so they're always on YouTube for you to check in after the fact. And then let's see, reading the chart, we got Big House reminding us not to don't forget Rune. Uh, this time around in
Actually, I
that
really like RUNE in here. We can always look at that while we wait for that other chart to load up. We have TRI Chief Technology Officer. Dun dun
that's
dun.
Fjord.
Sjord.
Yeah.
He he's probably one of the smartest people in the crypto space that I've run into. Very, very smart guy. And he's super uber bullish of this thing. But the only problem with that chart is looking at that price right there. What do you think Brian's gonna say? Is Brian going to be comfortable with you buying that asset there? You guys should be able to answer
Yeah.
that.
Is that because it's smiling at you?
Well, I mean, there's no real sell signal here,
Yeah.
but remember, I'm a cheap ass.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah,
and
you
I
like
want to
them
buy
down there.
W's. I mean, you can see where obviously we've looked at this before. I mean, there was your buy signal right there. And
Yep.
that's kind of like the same thing as what Bitcoin just did, right? We had big rally and we went, consolidated for like, 90 days or whatever. And then we break out and then you get your big bull run.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you had bought at this level here, which is 96 cents, then theoretically you'd be selling half of the position and getting a risk-free trade at like $2 there, right?
God.
And that's probably why this wick happened because it rallied up into this level. All of these guys that bought down here said, all right, time to let them have some. Some poor public person is buying up here and they don't even realize they're walking into a buzzsaw. So, if I was long from these low levels, then I'd probably just have another sell order working up at $4, right? In the next double level. So that's way up there. Is it realistic for this to move up here? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, too, you have to understand that, where would Brian like to buy? He likes his reload zones. And if you do a reload zone off of that entire range, then where are we here? 78.6 and 61.8. Right? And then if we do venture cap reload zone, then that's really 88.6. So, I can notice there's the 200 period moving average. I would actually want to be a buyer down here. So if you do go and buy this asset here, you have to be able to stomach seeing this thing come all the way back down to the bottom here
Down
and not be
50%.
stressed. So there's a lot of people that couldn't handle that kind of price break. That would just be way too stressful. So, and if I wanted to buy, this is the area that I would be focusing in on. And interestingly enough, Brian's favorite fib. What a coincidence. That basically is this original weekly breakout level there. So, and this is a good example of patience and discipline because this thing might just get ready for another leg higher. And as we said, if you were long already, you'd have your next sell order working up top here. But keep your eye on this reload zone. Notice, even as price goes up, do you notice that the reload zone doesn't change a hell of a lot?
Yeah.
So even if price went all the way up here, notice 78.6 is basically right down at these levels. And now that's 88.6 is the original breakout bottom. So what you have to do as if you want to approach this from a technical perspective and you're really interested in trade location, then you just have to keep dragging this higher and who knows how high it goes. Remember we had that LOOM example where it went all the way up and then it came screaming all the way right back down into the reload zone.
It's funny if you drag the zero up to that was that about $4, that 78.6 is gonna be like right along,
Oh,
yeah, that one.
there. Yep.
Right along it,
The base here.
where those
And
buys
the
were.
200 period moving average,
Yeah.
right? And so that means that maybe it's going to look something like that. And if I wasn't able to show you that LOOM chart, you
Yeah.
would say there's no way that kind of price action would ever happen. Kappa, they're not that unscrupulous in capitalism, But I mean, yeah, if you don't think that can't happen, there's the proof of the pudding, right? And if we do reload zones off of these
And that's
lows,
on the daily. So if you switch that to a weekly, that's just one giant red
yeah, yeah. Well, and this is the hallmark of
52.
venture cap.
Yeah.
So you can see where the bottom is. You can see where 88.6 is. You can see where Brian's favorite fib is. I might actually argue that, okay, well, we're now back into trade location. So all the coins that I sold on the way up, I could actually consider actually starting to buy them back again. So Anyway, back to Bitcoin. Let's see if this loaded up yet. Hey, there we go. Um, so the question ultimately here was, which way was this consolidation going to break? As a good technician, you probably should have, I like to follow volume studies. I like to follow price momentum studies. And when you started to see this thing break out, and it was this candle right here, you remember this was the rumor just a week or so ago. I don't know whether you remember that. I
Oh
guess
yeah.
it was one,
Then
two,
when
three,
they
four,
fired
five.
the intern.
Yeah, and Coin Market Cap or something like that put out a story that the Bitcoin ETF was approved and all hell broke loose. And then,
Yeah,
oh, no, no, it turns out that that was just all a rumor, blah, blah, blah. But that sort of, it stoked the fire. Does that make sense?
definitely. Yeah, that
Mm.
that was quite the pump early on, and then I think it's Cointelegraph kind of redacted it, and we're like,
Yeah,
"Hey, sorry, we
Cointelegraph,
just
that's right.
wanted to be the first people to announce it." Was the
Okay,
verbatim.
so as we said, when I did the retracement tutorial for you guys, um, we had originally put on the chart. Not quite sure why this
I think
is.
you might have to go to weekly there, get more data going there. I don't know why. What's
I've got a lot of browsers open. I don't know whether this is a browser function. It might be. I
I
mean,
don't
you
know.
can see
It's
I've got like
showing in
5
that.
million tabs open. Um, so,
I'll
all
pull it
right.
up on my side and see if we're.
Anyway, well, let's see. Maybe we can just load up a new one. So the retracement tutorial that I did for you guys, our initial thinking was, why have we not seen the 38.2 traded to? So something just didn't make sense about
Hmm.
that. And then, and I don't know whether you remember this, and we have one site member who's affectionately um, Colin. I don't think he really has a nickname in this space. A lot of people do, but
So
anyway, Colin is a big fan of 38.2 to 50% zones, right? So this speaks to your concept, your comment there earlier about 50% levels. And we like to
yeah.
call this Colin's dump chaser zone. And actually, it'll be the other way around. So let's flip this around. In a bear market, we should at any given point in time expect 38.2 bounces.
Hmm.
But if you wanted to join that bear trade, then you probably want to sort of hunt this window in here. So I do remember that. I guess we can go. You are here now. I do remember that when we did that video, when we did the retracement study, it was sort of like, well, the market really should trade back to this. What's that number there? 36,900.
Yeah.
So I think we're getting that now. So I thought that was interesting. So, and really on balance, interesting. Do you see these people right here? And, the irony of it all is the more that you work with me, the more that you're going to see this over time. Do you see these trap bulls right in this wick right here?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's what
if you
they're
can see
fighting.
that, then it makes sense. If price does get up into this level, there's going to be a whole bunch of sellers that are going to be like, oh God, thank God, get me the fuck out of this thing, right? I've been dying 1,000 deaths here.
Yeah.
So, and also too, I made reference to that Chico crypto guy. He said, his big year-end prediction is Bitcoin should be around 38,000 or so. That was his big year-end prediction.
I've been curious to see what's going to happen with that because you had mentioned in the past that historically speaking, Bitcoin is like low comes in about 6 months prior to the halvening, and we're right around that. On this chart, I think we said it's April 21st ish of next year. So
Yeah. And actually, so
um,
this was my conjecture. I thought that we were going to do something along these lines.
yeah,
Um, the more I'm looking at this, the more I'm almost leaning towards, and it's interesting because in the past, and it would be nice if we could get this data. There we go. Uh, I've actually suggested that this cycle actually was more like the 2014, 15, 16 cycle. And interestingly enough, I think that's actually being proven true. So where was the halvening event in this particular cycle? I think it was like right in, I think it was like in here somewhere, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe you can just Google that and give me the
Yeah, so
exact
first
date.
happening was November 28th, 2012.
Yeah, that's
Second
over
happening,
here.
yes, then second happening was July 9th, 2016.
July 9th. Oh, wow, way over here. Interesting. Okay,
And
so that's
then
there. Um,
and then May 11th, 2020.
yeah. So, do you remember? And I had a long conversation with site people today about this today. Do you
Hmm.
remember what this event was right here? That big
Um,
spike.
Honestly, I'm not sure. First thing that popped in my head was Bitcoin.
That was the second U.S. government auction of seized Silk Road bitcoins.
Okay.
The first one was this. This was Tim Draper. He won that. And everybody made fun of him because the price just collapsed following that event.
Okay.
Then this is the second government auction. And what's really interesting about this one is I heard you made reference to Mountain Man before.
Earlier. Yeah.
And I actually told my community when this was happening that the fact that the market stabbed right down into Mountain Man level and then violently reversed. Let's see if we can get this correct here. That was actually a really powerful sign. So that stab down from that low up to that high down into that level. That was a huge, and then the sort of Wyckoff check of this breakout level. That was a huge, huge event. And I have a funny feeling this is exactly what's happening now.
So you think we're right? We're in that
Well, look
top
at
part?
the date. Can you read the
Yeah.
date of that?
November
What is
2nd,
that?
2015. So yeah, well, that's actually almost that's what, a week from today?
Ah, what a
Week
coincidence,
from
eh?
tomorrow or something?
And I mean, I'm just going to show you the trading view chart because this is where I have most of my notes
Yeah.
written up.
It's
But what's really interesting about this event
when
is,
you look at it, when you just jump in like that, there's a lot there.
oh, I mean, it's ridiculous, and I don't want
A
to
lot to
try and explain it
digest.
all.
First look.
But this is an eclipse window. So we
Okay.
just had a solar eclipse, and notice that the market broke out through that event. And then
Interesting.
we have a lunar eclipse coming up here on the 28th of October. Have you noticed what the stock market's doing through this eclipse window? It's like absolutely puking out.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating how Bitcoin is rallying through this event. But we also have an FOMC meeting, the US Federal Reserve.
Coming up
And
Tuesday.
historically, Bitcoin does crazy things. Like here's an example where the market sold off into an FOMC event. And then on the event, this is like sell the rumor, buy the
For the
news.
news.
Right? So here's an example where the market tried to work its way higher into an FOMC, buy the rumor, sell the news. And this was an interesting one. This FOMC event right here, this was almost like a midpoint. So they bought the rumor, consolidated, and it was like halfway of the move. Here's one.
Yeah.
They bought the market, and then on the FOMC event, sell the news. So I wonder whether the market is, number one, rallying in this funny eclipse window. And it's weird. It's sort of like the humans, they kind of lose all sensibility. And they kind of do really irrational behavior. I mean, like I said, if you see what the stock market's doing right now, it's an absolute
It's
poop
funny. I
show.
saw your tweet about Meta today.
Yeah, well, Meta's a good. And what's so funny about Meta is, and actually that's this chart over here, is, I mean, you tell me,
Yeah.
if you were a good technician, is this a level you might be consider shorting?
Yeah.
78.6, Brian's favorite fib, all that
Yeah.
bullshit. And it's interesting. Look at the chief legal counsel for Meta,
Yeah,
Jennifer
Jennifer.
Newstead, right? She is the chief legal officer. Sell, 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 sell. Do you
Yep.
think that she kind of knew that something was coming down the pike?
Yeah.
Now, my question is this a function that she knew something was coming down the pike, or is she just a student of Brian, and she knew that actually this is the place if you're going to sell, this is where you want to sell in reload short zones.
Or GTFO zone.
This is an interesting juxtaposition of fundamental analysis. I don't know whether you heard like 42 states sued Meta here today, and technical analysis. This is maybe we call this a rational idea. Do you remember the definition of rational analysis? So
It's
fascinating
yeah, it's
commentary there.
the fundamental analysis uh meeting the technical analysis. It's that.
Well, what it really is we just want to try and concentrate. Like, there's a lot of people in the marketplace that if you even mention technical analysis, they'll punch you in the nose. They hate technical analysis. I mean, it's just the way the market works. There's other people that are exact opposite. Don't show me fundamentals; they're a waste of time. I'm just a trade off the charts because supply and demand's the only thing I really care about. We at TRI, we don't really have like an opinion one's better than the other, but think of like this circle as fundamental and this circle as technical. What we really want to try and concentrate on is there any time where the two camps overlap and they both agree? This would be like insider trading. That's fundamental information. You might also argue this is quantitative analysis, sentiment. And then, of course, the fact that the company's being sued by 42 different states for endangering children, that's a pretty big fundamental
That's
event.
crazy.
So there's your fundamentals. And then technicals, oh, gee whiz, that's a big old fat reload zone. And all this really is it's just a revisit of the original market structure top. So this is a situation where the fundamentalists say sell, 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 sell. The technicians say sell, 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 sell. So, I hate to say it, folks, but this is actually a really good example of rational analysis. So, anyway, let's put those guys away. Let's get back to
Yeah.
business here. So, this was the consolidation off of the bottom for the 2014-2015 bottom, right? And interestingly enough, like I said before, years ago, well, not years ago, maybe a year or two ago, I would have publicly come out and said that I think this bottom's actually going to look more like this bottom than the 2020 bottom. And you might even argue, it is very realistic to argue this, that this was my subconscious wanting the price to go down. And this chart obviously supports more bear action, and my subconscious opinion actually interjected. That's one of those self-reflection kind of
Okay.
moments, that I wonder whether my personal bias actually affected the analysis. Regardless, price action is price action is price action.
Yeah.
What's interesting about this is if we did a fib going from this low all the way back up to this high, and then we throw on our 38.2 to 50% retracement. Do you see how this rally here is
It's right up.
basically that same kind of conversation that we're having now about price action? See the similarity?
Yeah, I do.
It's actually a bit shocking, eh? So it's interesting how this actually stalled out just shy of 38.2. We'll see what happens. Only time will tell. But I get the impression that this Bitcoin ETF event is very similar to what we're seeing here. And this was the only fundamental driver was this U.S. Government auction. And it sort of changed the narrative because This was all about, well, who wants to buy Bitcoins? Who wants to, the government is liquidating these. They want to get rid of these things. So it changed the narrative because all through here, this was all just sell, sell, sell. Bitcoin's a scam. It's all going to zero. You had like Mike Hearn, rage quit down here. I hate you all. You're all fucking, bastards and all that kind of stuff, right? And
Yeah.
get me out of the story. And then we had in here, Phoenix, they were like running the lows. And it was all sort of very negative, negative. And this finally changed the conversation to a bullish conversation. So I'm wondering now with the ETF, that's going to sort of circling back to buy the rumor, sell the news. Does it not make sense that if this Bitcoin ETF is approved, that it's probably going to be across a lot of major news networks? And oh, by the way, you're about halfway off camera now, so we can see about half of your face.
Sorry. You're right.
Hey, all right, you're back on camera.
Zoning in.
So my feeling is we are getting, I mean, this is a pretty big move here, right? And you can see previous moves, we had to consolidate. This is a weekly price chart, right? Big move, we had to consolidate. Big move, we had to consolidate. We're getting the big move now. We're probably going to get news that, hey, the Bitcoin ETF is approved. So my question for you is, if you are Joe Sixpack, well, maybe you're Joe Oregon. What's your last name? Joe Joe Dorf. That's right.
There we go.
I'm Brian Beamish. And by the way, I'm the type of person that I don't like to hide behind screen names and nicknames and stuff like that. I'm Brian Beamish. Damn glad to meet you. Simple as that. So,
oh yeah,
we'll call you Joe D, right? Anyway,
Joe Dorf is fine by me.
The point being that think about this in simplest terms.
Okay.
Is the Bitcoin ETF approval going to be front page news?
I in the grand scheme for sure in crypto, but in the
I think it'll probably be front page news on most of the networks and stuff. I bet it will be. And keep in mind,
big enough.
Remember we said guy's name rhymes with Dink?
Yeah.
He's going to be doing this ETF.
Yeah, Mr.
Which means that public is going to be buying this thing off of him.
Yeah.
So think of it this way. We have to kind of think backwards a little bit.
Okay.
You're Joe Sixpack and you're sitting at the breakfast table and you're reading your newspaper. Remember newspapers?
Yeah.
And then all that, you haven't thought about Bitcoin since all this stupidity. And that guy was on Saturday Night Live talking about dog money and how crazy that was. And then you watch the price collapse and you kind of chuckled about it. And it was sort of like, oh, silly kids, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But in the back of your mind, you were always like, well, is this thing the next best thing since sliced bread? So it's going to be front page news. So the question here is that guy sitting at his kitchen table reading his newspaper, oh, look, the Bitcoin ETF is approved. Oh, yeah, I forgot about Bitcoin. Yeah, I really wanted to buy some of that. Maybe I should go and buy some now that the ETF is approved kind of idea. Is that person going to get a really cheap price? Or is that person going to have to pay up?
If it's already on the news, then it's going to be up there.
He's going to have to pay up.
Yep.
There's no way Mr. Dink is going to allow Joe Sixpack to buy cheap Bitcoins.
No.
If anything, on the news, price should be very high. And kind of like what you saw with that LOOM, you might find a scenario that this thing actually peaks on that event and then comes screaming back down once that news event has happened. And that's kind of what I think is going to happen here. Because remember when we did look back at that study from way back when, I mean, what a coincidence. When I saw the date, I was sort of like, wow, that can't be an accident. Yeah. So first week of November, same sort of thing. Huge blow off top. Everybody in the public's going to be talking about Bitcoin. Oh my God, everybody's got to buy Bitcoins. And then it's going to be sort of like, okay, now what?
Hmm.
And it's not really like we're going to break to new lows and it's a new bear market. I think the bear market's over. And this pullback into 61.8, this is what's called like a Wyckoff check, right? That check of that breakout level there. That I think is probably going to be your buying window. So let's keep an eye out. Now, furthering this conversation, I did the retracement study for you guys.
Hmm.
Uh, we also did an extension study. Do you remember that?
Yes.
So we have been talking about the fact that Bitcoin does have this inverted head and shoulders pattern. So left shoulder, neckline, head, neckline, right shoulder, breakout. And how do you measure the expected move on an inverted head and shoulders pattern? This is technically what's called a measured move, or in
So with
essence, you can
eight,
take the distance from the head to the
yeah.
neckline and then just literally project that same distance up above. Now,
Wow.
when we use the extension tutorial and tool, what we're going to do here is we're going to put on numbers like 1.618, 200%, and actually that's what I like to call the
So
parking garage.
yeah, so the numbers I've got written down, yeah, the parking garage is there. The 1.618 I said is golden ratio in my
Yeah,
view.
yeah.
All right, and then you got 1.41,
These would
1.2.
be like sort of stopping points along the way. So yeah, there's 1.13 is a very popular harmonic extension level. I don't know whether I have them on here or not.
You have four.
1.41, it's like 1.414 or something like that. 1.272 is also a very popular
Yeah,
extension level. These are all Fibonacci ratios.
yeah.
Um, and I guess just the point is that there's a lot of harmonic patterns that actually develop on these various different levels. Like you might argue that half of the reason why we stalled out where we did right there was because it was a 1.618 level. I don't know whether you can
Gotcha.
see that or not. But in simplest terms, if we're thinking about the inverted head and shoulders, then your price objective should be, and for the purposes of this conversation, we can even put away these harmonic extensions,
Okay.
and we'll just do this is this parking garage kind of concept. And the reason why I use the term parking garage is that the market likes to move in levels. And believe it or not, the market likes to be symmetrical. So, quite often, and actually, we had a number of examples. There was one, um, Dash, I think that's what the coin was. And there was a girl who was a promoter, and her name was Amanda. And we used to talk about Amanda's penthouse, and it was just literally you could watch Dash, So this would be like down here. This would be housewares, and like kitchen appliances, and in a actually they don't even really have department stores anymore, do they? I'm not sure. We're sure that seems to be stuck on this thing. Anyway, I wanted to just draw. So this is like one level of the department store down here. This is the next level, and this is your head and shoulders objective. Now,
Yeah.
interesting how that two, or basically the head and shoulders objective, it seems to be pretty close to that 38.2 number, right?
And ironically, where we're at right now, too.
Yeah, I mean, basically we're right there, aren't we?
Yeah.
Um, that's a technical objective. That's not a all right, well, we're breaking out and we're getting ready to move to a level. This is we have broken out and we are now moved to that level. So that was another technical objective that I illustrated in that tutorial that sort of lent credence to the idea this is a move to 34,700.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, we did a tutorial for you guys on chaos theory. I don't know whether this is going to work. Let's see what happens. Survey says, nope, yeah, seems to be stuck on that. Maybe we can go back over here. See if
I'm
this
not sure
works.
what's going on.
Do you see how that's just one box and that's lit up like that? Mind you, that magnet thing, that should just stay on anyway. I'm not quite sure why this is, it's stalling out here. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, so let's throw on a chaos theory off of this original double bottom down here.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go there to there. And the chaos theory levels are 2.618.
2.618.
Actually, maybe I'll ask you. Well, what are the chaos theory levels?
It's 2.618, and then you got 4.669,
Yeah.
and then 8.776.
Right. So we'll throw those chaos theory levels on there.
Not
Nope, there's
seeing. Oh, there we
877
are.
there. And that's going the wrong direction. So let's flip
You got to
that
reverse it.
around.
Or declick
And
reverse.
notice there is 877 right there. Right? 877. So we're starting to get a lot of confluence in this area. We
Let's
got
say so.
38.2, we've got 200%, the head and shoulders, and we have 877. And this is almost like an extreme move sort of target for chaos theory.
Okay.
That, like, you know, the market's going absolutely ballistic. And what are some absolutely insane levels? The next level after this is like 16 and change.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I get the impression that we're probably going to run out of steam through here. But, you know, this thing might blow all the way up into these levels up here. You know, there is 50% level. There's that wick right there. Certainly wouldn't say that's a short. There's no reason to be thinking that. If anything, what we need to see is some sort of bearish. This is, what do we, and actually this would be interesting if you remember this. This is a candlestick pattern. Yeah, it's not quite an engulfing bar. But can you see how we went zooming up and then we came slamming right back down?
Yep.
So if you actually smush these two candles together, that's actually going to create like a shooting star.
Okay.
So this would be over like a 2-week period. Like if we just think about this, right? You're going to have your, oops, oh darn. Let's maybe try and I don't know, am I spending too much time on this?
No.
Okay. So
we do have a good amount of requests in the chat too, if we want to get to as well. But
so if we smush this candle together and this candle together, then what you create is we opened up here and we actually closed down there. And the tail of this candle would be a little bit lower.
And we said that shooting stars are a little more are more bearish.
Yeah, well, they are very bearish.
They are bearish. Gotcha.
So where is the color box? There it is over there.
Hello, Raphael. Welcome.
So that's, if we smush these two candles together, you create this kind of thing. And then notice, remember, there was this shooting star up here. So the point being that for us to actually see that this thing is exhausted, we need to see bearish type candles where you got big wicks, little bodies, and we finished down near the bottom of the actual entire range.
Gotcha.
We don't have that at all right now. I mean, right now, this is, you know, in years gone by, right, they'd call this a big green dildo, right? And we've got a couple of them. You know, smush those two together, and you got an even bigger green dildo. So, and notice how this pattern plays out. This actually creates your divergence where you have a really big initial move. Then the market kind of moves higher. But this move up here doesn't have nearly the momentum that this move has here. So that's probably what this top is going to have to look like. is that we're going to, we're obviously going to finish. This is October, and remember our study last go round. What did that top look like? Can you see the shooting star that this created on that event there? Can you see this huge wick up here?
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, this turns out that it was just a 2 week pattern. Bang, bang. All right, we've cleaned it up and now we're ready to go back up. But notice that the market literally spent, geez, how long is that? From
Mm,
here to actually resolving that and breaking higher was 29 weeks. So that's a pretty
yeah.
long time period of just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is I do expect a nice blow off top. I do expect at the very least a retest of the original bottom that we just put in. And then what I would like to see out of Bitcoin is some consolidation, just sort of consolidating these gains. Yeah,
Gotcha.
there is one gentleman who Chico even said that he's made a grandiose prediction that Bitcoin will be 100,000 by the end of the year. I don't know whether I subscribe to that, but I didn't really like the idea of getting too bullish here to begin with last week. I can understand that there's a nice little breakout here that set up a trade, and then of course, our crazy little algorithm. We really got to get this on your site somehow because I would rather show the Coinigy chart
Yeah.
and show the signal off of the Coinigy chart, but the algo spat up a huge buy signal right here, and we're just riding the inertia of that.
Yeah.
Um, so as you can kind of see in my conversations with site people, I'm actually looking for a higher high here.
Hmm.
And and this is like the lower time frame 4 hour chart. Remember I had said earlier about how momentum coils sometimes happen?
Yep.
And you can see that this momentum coil is playing out kind of like that crazy ass image I showed you, eh? So
Exactly.
it went screaming up, and now the momentum is bleeding out. And the question is, do we have
Well,
some sort of puke out on the other side of this? I don't know. I mean, I hope not. It would be a shame if this was the shooting star. But ironically enough, actually, I mean, that's just basically business as usual because that's exactly what happened through this event right here. And it's so ironic. I mean, this is the irony of all this is that a year or so ago, I explicitly said that I thought that this was actually more relevant type of cycle price action than the 20 cycle. But Brian being greedy and wanting cheap Bitcoins, he was like, no, we're going to dump down here and we're going to do this. And it turns out actually we look more like 2015 than we do anything else here. So the point of all of this was I wanted to highlight how, and it would be interesting to go back and look because I distinctly remember when I did those videos, I think it was in the chaos theory. I finished off the video saying, it sure looks to me like this market really wants this 35,000. And the final coup de grace of all of this?
hmm
How does that expression go? SHOD. What does that stand for?
sell half on the double, baby.
All right. So if you add, like, as a good technician,
Uh-huh.
you had patiently waited for your W's to come in, right? Down, up, down, breakout. Where does this have you going long the market here? Well, right on a break of that high there. And
Breakout. So
that high
18.
there
So
was $18,300.
about 36,500
Yeah.
ish.
Well, what
Or
a
no,
coincidence.
37. Yeah.
Right? So, do we come up into this 36,000 and change
Yeah.
and let these people that bought the level you're supposed to buy at sell half on a double? Remember we talked about the altcoins and the way that they were acting, which was the one that we were looking at just a moment ago. That it popped and it like literally stopped right on the the double level. Which one was
Was
that?
that
I think that
Rune?
was that rune, wasn't it? That we were just looking at a few minutes ago.
Maybe click on recent there. Rune
Yeah,
USD.
this one. Yeah. So, there's your weekly breakout. That's at $1.10. And the thing rallied right up to $1.20 and then just stopped.
Yeah, big time.
So, is this history repeating itself? I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just kind of funny how this it happens over and over and over and over. Now, like this image, just because it stopped there, I ran into a bunch of sellers right around $2. But it's trying to push higher. What do you think the odds are that maybe we're creating a momentum divergence up here?
It,
That's probably
probably
pretty
pretty
good.
high.
Yeah, look at the volume. You can see
Yep.
that it's not making new highs. And you can see MACD's not making new highs. And you can see RSI. RSI was 65.32 and we're at 63. So, uh-oh. So you can kind of see that, coming in on the long side up here might be asking a little bit of trouble. So I think the final coup to all of this, which makes perfect sense to me, because keep in mind, guy's name who rhymes with Dink. And do you think he understands the sell half on a double principle? Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like just Wall Street 101. That's not even really, I mean, it's certainly nothing I created. It was taught to me by an old Vancouver Stock Exchange floor broker back when there was a stock exchange here in Vancouver, which is like a million years ago.
Up there
So,
in Canada.
yeah. So, and actually, it would be interesting. I might conjecture you might get a blow off top that actually starts hitting chaos theories, especially like this little W right here. Be interesting to see if 4669s and stuff start forming up in here. And you want to see another really cool study.
Love to.
I don't think I can do it on Coinigy. Do you guys cover the CME futures?
No, we did not.
Yeah. So I could show you the trading view chart if you don't
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah, that's fine. I know
Uh,
you have to go through like legal compliance and stuff to get the stock stuff shown.
all right. So can you see this double bottom here? And how that creates chaos theory. And oh, gee whiz, look, 4669 also happens to line up with 38.2, 877's, 200% range extensions. So I got to tell you, if there was a level to look for some sort of reversal, just here in the short term, I'd say I'd have high confidence that it's right in this window right up here.
For a reversal?
So keep your eyes peeled. I mean, obviously, there's no guarantees from management. There never is in this space.
No.
But, if we go down to, say, like a 4-hour chart, you should start to see signs of exhaustion of this move. That's assuming that the chart will load. And actually, it makes sense, right? Because this is sort of peak drive time here. The internet's probably very taxed right now. But what I was just going to say there was I'll show you the CME chart. This is an interesting study. It's a concept that we teach in our level 2 program.
Mm-hmm.
Because I used to be an old futures broker. In fact, actually, I'm even trading with my old prop firm now. This is actually what's called gap theory. So this is a futures contract. And gap theory actually says that there should be a gap that happens that breaks price away from its old trading range. So can you see how this candle
Yeah.
right here, price broke out through the old highs? And actually, there's an old expression in the market, show me a new high and I'll show you a buy. And it actually comes from the futures industry.
Interesting.
So gap theory says that there should be 3 gaps that happen. The first gap is the breakaway gap, which I think that looks pretty much like a breakaway gap to me. The second gap is actually what's called the measuring gap, and you should be able to measure the distance between the breakaway gap and the measuring gap.
Mm-hmm.
And if this is gap theory, then what we should see is a final gap happen all the way up top here, 36,900 on these futures contracts. And does it not make sense that on the day of the ETF announcement, this thing's probably going to gap higher?
Yeah.
This is a futures contract. So there's another anecdote, and this is from a completely different perspective, looking for a price objective up here around 37,000. So I thought that was really interesting. Um, so, just the point being that, and I started to show you this you can see on the 4 hour basis, the momentum is already starting to come out of this move. Does that translate into just a sideways consolidation? Anybody that uses TRI's algo, generally speaking, that's not what I wanted. Where do I want? Where is the website? I got too many screens open here. That's what I just showed you. It's not those guys. Which one is it? Well, we'll just go through them. Nope, it's not that one. Here it is. Yay.
Beautiful.
So this is the algo, and it gave us our big ass buy signal there, October 14th. And it's just so fucking awesome to see it and listen to all the people that actually bought and said, I went long on the algo signal. They're all fucking just loving life right now, obviously. But the issue here is, do you see how this is an oscillator? It can only go to 100, and it can only go to 0. Yep. It can't go any further. And yeah, in fact, actually yesterday's print, if I'm not mistaken, actually there you are there, right? October 23rd, we had a print of 100 on the fast. Oh. And the problem here is that when these moving averages get this far apart, like notice when they got really far apart before, there had to be a pullback and a check. These moving averages don't like to be far apart. So they are extremely far apart now, and the fast can't go any higher. I mean, quite literally what this means is every single name on this list is basically in the buy mode. And if everything's in the buy mode and everything is moving up, then that means that everybody's buying. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But if everybody has bought and they're expecting the market to go higher and everybody is long, how is the market going to go higher? There aren't any more buyers. Everybody's already bought.
Mm-hmm.
And you get like this vacuum, and you might find that price actually comes down precipitously, kind of like this LOOM. This LOOM, I think, is a really good example of that, where you can only stretch the rubber band so far. And the problem is that you stretch the rubber band really, 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 really far. Sometimes the snapback can be absolutely brutal.
Yep.
So, another way to look at this is think of things like, relative strength index. You see how the relative strength index got up to 90 here. This thing does not like to go above 75, generally speaking. It was at 90. I mean, do you see my overbought, oversold indicator, Willie? And now you know how to interpret this, so you better remember this going forward.
Yeah.
There's Brian being cheeky. But can you see how LOOM was just a little bit overbought here? And this is a good example where my phone as a broker would be ringing off the hook. The public would want to buy this. I don't care, Brian. Shut the fuck up. Sell those government bonds. I want in on this LOOM. I got to buy it. I got to buy it. I got to get in. And unfortunately, that's usually, look out.
Yeah.
So, as I had sort of said earlier, I mean, the good part about what we're seeing on Bitcoin off of the higher time frames, like these kind of charts, and this is a weekly chart, is we don't have to worry about Willie being stupid. We're not there yet. But off the lower time frames, like this 4-hour chart, I mean, you tell me, is the market maybe getting a little bit overbought here?
Getting up there.
There's Willie.
Yep, there it is.
What's Willie
doing? I can see from that. Yep, it's overbought.
So, you as a good market technician, you have to respect this message. Do you see how RSI, even though price is trying to move higher here, RSI is not really moving higher. And, gee whiz, RSI is at 91. Uh-oh. Didn't we say RSI doesn't like to get that high?
Does not.
So this is a 4-hour chart. It's not the end of the road, but actually Remember we did that volume impetus tutorial last show? I don't know whether you
Yeah.
can see this or not, but hopefully you can
It's a
see.
lot of green.
Well, there's one green, there's another green, but hey, what's going on here? This push to new highs here recently,
Dying
that's not
down.
really on much volume, is it?
No.
And we'll actually get a sign that the bull has officially fallen asleep if we do, this is a 4 hour basis now, if we do a 4 hour candle, then less than what this number is, right? And that number right there is 233 coins. So if we get to a point in a 4 hour period where it's an up bar, and oh gee whiz, look at our current 4 hour candle, it's only done 98 coins. If this thing's so wonderful and it's such a great deal and it's such a great buy, where the hell are the buyers?
Yeah.
So that's a little bit concerning. So you can kind of see the volume impetus study is starting to exhaust itself. So, the long, and as I've said here repeatedly, I've got like confluence of levels coming up here. So there's no way in hell I could justify buying into this move here. Uh, we don't have the daily divergences here, but what concerns me about this is, remember we had sort of said, and I showed you off the 4 hour chart how that momentum picture is happening. Usually when you have this coil in momentum like that, you get a big move up and then a huge tank down the other side.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is all lining up, that we get the ETF announcement, the futures markets gap higher, we rally into all those technical objectives. They're not that far away. You could have like a $2,000 or $3,000 pop here, no problem. That sets up all the divergences. You know that even right now, Willie is sitting minus 22 on the daily chart. So we're not even stupidly overbought yet on the dailies. This has got to get up to minus 20. This blue number here, down here, and right now it's at minus 22. So we're still not technically stupid on the daily charts. This is setting up perfectly for sort of that peak into that eclipse, which is on the 28th, and then look out on the other side of that, especially going into that Fed announcement event. So,
Beautiful.
okay, I think I've said my piece about Bitcoin. I hope you
Well,
guys got some value out of all that.
we did. Thank you for that. So looking into some requests from
Yeah.
the audience, I saw OMG.
And I'll tell you, there are a lot of coins that look really, really good in here. So OMG, I think, is one of them.
Yep. You have to click all there.
We'll go over here.
Yep.
I suppose Binance is still most
Yeah,
popular.
Binance has the most 24-hour volume I'm seeing. So
Well, I mean, the good part about this is that people who are students of mine, you should all look at this chart and it should be really obvious what's going on here.
mm-hmm.
You're
Confirmed it.
relatively new to this game, Joe, but you and I have been
W
working long
confirmed.
enough. I mean, what letters of the alphabet do you see here?
I see a W inside a W.
Right, and if you need help, right, and anybody's watching these videos for the first time, and you're like, I don't see any of this, change the chart to a line chart, and then, oh, gee whiz, look at that, boom, right there. And look at these W's over here. You could make the argument that this thing was actually spitting out buy signals in September.
Yeah.
And actually, this is just like that Verge, where it broke out and it had to come right back down and test the bottom of the range. And then, oh, gee whiz, another W just came in. And then the whole process of this entire thing, right? So this little W here, breakout, and then the test of the lows. Yep, they held, and another W. This is now creating a massive W. Can you see this? Like you said, W within a W. That is one hell of a powerful formation. What this really is this is sort of supply hitting the market. Sell, sell, sell. Get me the fuck out of here. I want out, right? And somebody came in at this level and said, all right, no more down. You go up. I'm going to step in and buy. Then the market came back down. And the guy's like, I said, I'm going to buy. And he came back in and bought some more. Then look at even this cute little W. Can you see this little bitty W? I mean, wow, that's like a trader's dream, that little W right there. And this is, if you want to take a screenshot, if you fancy yourself a trader, this is exactly what you want to find. You want to hunt this stuff. Where do you see how if I bought the breakout in the middle part of this W here and I risk to a break of these lows, that is a very small risk window. Does that make sense?
It does.
And old prop firm that I worked with, um, Johnny Hoagland, he would always say all the time, I want to find situations where I can limit risk. I can keep risk really, really low. Here's a great example where you could actually have an incredibly small risk window. Buying that W and risking to a break of the lows. And what happened? Boom! Yeah, you think you got paid on that event? Sure hope so.
Yeah.
So anyway, point of the matter here is big rally because this bull here absorbed all the selling, and then people went, oh, well, maybe this thing's half decent. Okay, I'll buy. And up she goes. Then the rally exhausted itself, and probably, what do you think the odds are? There's a wick up here, a whole bunch of trap bulls, and this rally here just brought the market back into this wick, and they were able to get released. Yeah, well, there's a wick. It's not that much, but it's a little bit of one. Big rally up top. Actually, a whole bunch of FOMOers bought up in here. The market actually pulled back, and they were like, oh, shit. Then the market rallied back up into here, and you could make the argument that this technically is a little bit of an M right here, right? So what are we supposed to think if we see the market smiling at you right there?
Wants to take your money.
So back down we go. And then the most important thing here is how did the market act when it came back down into these, and we call this horizontal support and resistance.
Mm-hmm.
So remember we had said earlier there was some fat cat that came in here and he said, no more down, you go up. Right? What do we call this little 2-box window right in here? In fact, actually, I would even say there to there. Do you remember what we call this?
Inside bar?
No.
Or no. That would not the it's not railroad.
I gave the hint
V bottom?
is, huh?
Would that be a V bottom?
Well, the hint is
All right.
somebody was selling, some other bigger player came
institutional
along.
footprint.
Huh?
Institutional footprint?
Fingerprint, footprint, whatever you want to
that's
call
what I
it.
meant.
This is your visual evidence that somebody with a very big wallet said, no, I don't want the price to go down anymore. You go back up. And the only way that you can stop this thing going down is he had to buy up all the sell orders. So you could make the argument that somebody has officially declared that this window here is the bottom. And anytime price comes back down into this area, right, here comes a whole bunch of sellers. Nope, I'm going to buy them all up and back up you go. So after this rally, and then they put in a little bit of an M, all right, let's go after him again. I don't think that guy's still around. I think he's gone. And they bring the price back down into these levels where he stopped the bear before, and he came right back in and bought them all up again. And then did it again. So you could argue going forward, there is just an absolutely insane amount of buying interest down in this window down in here. And add insult to injury, what do you think the odds are? This is a reload zone.
Pretty high.
So we'll go boom, 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 right? And boom, there's Brian's favorite fib. And then if we want to say like your venture cap reload zone, 88.6, like a total boss. Look how basically right into that level, all of the selling just got absorbed. And man, candle body lows. You ever heard me use the expression candle body lows for trade location?
Yes, sir.
I mean, look at that. That's insane level there. And then, I mean, the irony of it all is that the universe is a fractal. So you could make the argument that, well, exactly the same thing happened off of this range. Okay? And this is now saying reload zones within reload zones. There's that 88.6 candle body lows. And look at this tail that came right into that level. I mean, this was an absolute gift of a trade right there, right? Isn't that incredible? So whoever's asking about this name, I mean, there's no doubt about it. There is a very big fat bottom in this market now. So remember, I'd always said to you guys that I always want to start the analysis on the weekly price chart just to get an idea of where this thing's come from, where it's going. Can you see how when we actually look at the entire range, you can't even see what the hell we're talking about right now? Is there any opportunity to make money on a name like this?
Yes.
I would say so.
Yes.
If we do the same logic as Bitcoin and we just say, well, what did we say was the natural level that this thing should just bounce to at any given point in time? You should always expect this.
38.2
Right. And then WD GAN and
is
50%
50%.
rules as
Yep.
sort of Collins, we'll call it the dump chaser
Oh
zone.
yeah, dump chaser
We're
zone.
not even really asking that this is a new bull market. This is just technical. Look at that. That's all the way up at like $8. And here we are quibbling about 40, 50 cents. I mean, that's more than a 10x. Didn't we just see a name just do a 10x move?
Yes, sir.
And then remember that they can go up 10x straight up, but they can also come right back down after they're done. So you better take profits if you're getting in here. Now, the question I would have for you here is, do we actually have any anecdotal evidence that this market is trending higher on the weekly charts? And I like to use these moving averages, the 30 period simple moving average and the 13 period exponential moving average, as sort of my fast indicator and my slow indicator. And when the fast indicator is below the slow indicator, then it means that we're in a bear. And when
Once,
vice versa, it means we're in a bull.
all right,
So
so I'm gonna write that down. So EMA.
13 EMA, 30 SMA. And we've talked about this in the past,
Yep.
so
I
it's
just
certainly
want
not
to.
new.
Yeah, I just want to write that.
Um, you can see on a weekly basis, there is the W that we're talking about. My hunch is we're probably going to rally up to this 30 SMA. That would be logical. We could also make the argument too that this is probably your trading range right now. And notice there's 38.2 and there's 50%.
Mhm.
And these guys right in here, that wick right there and that wick right there, there's a bunch of trap bulls in there. And then also this huge wick here. And so all of these trap bulls, they'll probably want to take advantage of that rally to get out. Having said that, like we said, there is that weekly W. So it's in there and it's trying to break out. The breakout on the weekly charts was 54 cents. And this 30 SMA is sitting right now at about 70 cents. So that's, I'll call it 15 cents. So it's 30%. I could easily see a 30% rally here. That wouldn't surprise me. And then what this probably is going to do over time, I mean, obviously there's no guarantees, but it's just sort of Brian just throwing in his conjecture. But probably what I would expect is something like a head and shoulders that looks something like that. Now, how high this rally actually goes, I mean, maybe we just stall out at necklines. That's possible, and that would be your 30 SMA kind of idea. We might get all the way up into this wick. Are these guys going to be released? I would imagine when we get into this price action, there's going to be a lot of selling that comes to the market. But
Mhm.
what does this sort of look like that I always want to see at sort of market turns? Do you remember what's that?
A
And I'll give you.
W on the other side of the trend line,
Well, okay, well there's that. So we could make the
or
argument
you're saying, or
if
the
you want to
saucer
look for
bottom.
like is this market trending? I like that as a trend line. So that peak against that peak, and that was confirmed on
Yeah,
that dump there.
but then a
So
saucer bottom. Is that what
interesting.
you're
Look
referring
how
to?
that rally came right to the trend line. Then we had to consolidate, and now it's trying to break that. Now, what we'd ideally like to see for us to be really bulls is now that that trend line's been broken, what we really want to see is a W now, like over there. Now, maybe it's going to be something big like that. Could be. You never know in this crazy game. Uh, So there is some encouraging anecdotal evidence that we're probably closer to a bottom than the top. That's for sure. It is interesting how they brushed up against this trend line, had to walk it back down, and then broke out here.
Hmm.
Um, I guess the question that I'm asking you here is, what have I said that almost all bottoms usually look like over time?
A saucer.
Yeah, well said. So if we pull up our arc image and we kind of think, okay, well, maybe that's some sort of neckline. Can you kind of see how that's looking saucery? So that's a
Indubitably.
good sign, right? And then if we sort of pan out over time, that makes sense. I think that's logical. But what this I guess is implying is that there's lots and lots of time for this thing to build structure in here to actually get us ready for the next bull. And what I really like about this market is what letter of the alphabet does this look like? Make it
That's
simple for you.
that's an M
No. What
or
I was
V
thinking
top,
is this
but
is an upside down V.
yeah, a V top. But
An
I
M.
was smiling at you before.
Well, but an M, the most important part about the M is that this high here is lower than this high.
Okay.
Notice that that's not the case here.
Yeah.
So I would actually call this a V top, this
Okay.
high here. And notice, look how we did a V top here. And what had to happen down the road? Well, it turns out
Out.
that the market actually had to test that V top and it actually went and broke it. I might even make the argument, be as so bold as to say something outlandish as I actually think, and you notice that it did it repeated. Notice there's a V top here. It pulled back,
Mhm.
had to go up and test it, and it broke it. I might actually make the argument that, there's probably your trend for the future. Which means if we drill out, like that's a V top, it will have to be tested at some point down the road. That means that it's very realistic that this thing might actually work its way all the way up into here. And in fact, when did we say that this cycle is supposed to end?
So the halving is in 2024, but then this cycle is in it 4 years.
Right.
So that would be 28 or
No,
27.
because remember we marked the cycle bottom from the low, not the
Yeah.
halving. But you can even do it here, so you can see it is a 4 year cycle from trough to trough and from peak to peak.
Hmm.
It's not a 4 year cycle starting at the halving of it.
Yeah.
So maybe write this down. The next anticipated cycle peak is supposed to be November 2025. So right in there. So do you notice how this fun chaos level is floating out there? And remember we said that 877s, they're usually actually a pretty good sort of blow off top sort of objective. And by the way, half of your face. Oh, there you are. Now you're back. Got to remember when you look down like that, you actually disappear from the camera.
Sorry. Right, taking notes.
All right. So the point that I would just make, and I'm not quite sure what I've drawn this study off of, but I actually really like the idea that this thing might even rally all the way up into there. Look at that. It's $240. That's actually completely realistic. And what's also interesting too is that these lows did not take out these lows. So if this actually is some sort of market turn in here, then that means that we could actually do a chaos level off of this entire range. And then if we do our 2.618s, which is probably a realistic objective right there, where does that come in? Everybody ready to have your socks blown off?
Here.
Boom, boom. All right, where the hell is it? Oh, it's going the other direction. Man, this thing could go absolutely crazy, and it wouldn't surprise me, honestly. Yeah, there we are, way up there. Because this is what I'm really worried about is, have you ever heard of well, have you ever studied what happened in Germany in the 1920s?
Yes.
It seems to me that the same thing that happened in Germany in the 1920s is happening in the United States of America and all these Western nations. So you might find that something like this does go to $400 US, hit this trend line objective, which I think is actually perfectly realistic. I don't know whether something like this is realistic. That does seem a bit outlandish. But the point, I guess, is just that is this a function that OMG is so awesome and so great, or is it a function that this thing that it's priced in is like literally collapsing? And, have you ever heard of this thing called the Great Reset?
Yeah.
It might just be something like the US dollar. And, there's a lot of conjecture that the US itself, the United States of America as an entity, might not even exist. I remember I said, heading into the 2030s, the society that we live in then, it might look completely different than the society that we're living in now. Shocking. But
Yeah.
I could see it happen. And so this is not really a commentary about OMG going absolutely crazy. I think this is more a commentary that this thing over here just becomes worthless. And, there's a lot of people that are calling for some just outlandish Bitcoin price objectives to the upside. Is it
Agreed.
because Bitcoin's so wonderful, or is it because the US dollar is basically worthless? And that's a very, very big philosophical question. And what's kind of sad in this society that we live in is we as the populace are really not even allowed to have that conversation. As soon as you do start talking like that, all of a sudden you get mysteriously silenced in our society, which is kind of sad.
Yeah.
But anyway, in years gone by, they would buy gold. I think that the 1% completely manipulated the gold market to prevent people from buying gold and using that as a hedge. I think that Bitcoin did work as a wonderful sort of hedge from 2008. I put out lots of rants about all that. Um, and if you find that Bitcoin is a $500,000 of Bitcoin, is it because Bitcoin is so wonderful, or is it because it takes like $100 to buy a loaf of bread? And that's a very realistic possibility in the world that we're living in right now. But anyway,
Yeah. With
that's
inflation.
we want to talk bull market. Let's make a ton
Yeah.
of money. So
So
long and
we,
short of it here is this is exactly the kind of environment that I want to hunt. And this is exactly the time in the cycle that I want to hunt this. So I would be an idiot not to be a buyer down here. If you believe in
understandable.
crypto, man, you're seeing this stuff all over the place. It's happening now. And as I sort of said earlier, it's a interesting coincidence that this is the sentiment within the altcoin space, considering how a 35-year market veteran is looking at it
Yeah.
completely opposite. I
Yeah.
don't think that's an accident.
So we are right around that 2 hour mark. Do you want to? We got time to fit in another one here. So
Yeah,
got,
sure.
got
Why
a
not?
couple to pick from there. Got someone who asked about XRP or
Ripple.
V Chain, or we got just OGN. So
Somebody sent you a request on
oh, and
Twitter,
then
though, eh?
CRO
Yeah, we
too.
should probably
Yeah,
look at that
yeah,
one because that person did
that
take the
came
time
in
and effort to actually
ahead
respond to
of
the
time.
tweets.
Correct. So
All right, so where do we want to look at this? Do our Binance thing, I suppose.
let's see. We got
Oh, is it? Oh, it doesn't look like it's on Binance. Go
yeah.
figure.
Cole says
Coinbase?
cripple.
Huh?
Cole in the chat says cripple instead of
Yeah,
ripple.
Cripple. That's what I always. In fact, actually, I even remember back in 2013, a guy that I used to work with on TradingView. He even then said that Ripple was absolutely the best remittance product, but it's a terrible example of pure blockchain. And if anything, it makes sense why Cripple will do well because if the banks were going to use a vehicle to move money around, Cripple's absolutely perfect for it. The only problem is it's a terrible store of value. Anyway, all right. So here is CRO. We're looking at it on Coinbase on the weekly chart. You tell me, is this thing trending higher?
I just commented back to the person on Twitter, letting them know we're talking about it now. Yes, it is trending higher.
And I would say no, it is not. Well,
Really? Well,
anyway.
isn't that like
Remember,
the?
you even said you were going to write this down.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
So I like to use the moving averages to tell me whether the trend has been established. And remember, we're on a weekly price chart.
Okay.
So the fast moving average is still below the slow moving average. This needs to cross back bullish for me to actually say that yes, the trend has turned back up. Remember that last coin that we looked at? I said that we probably could see a spike back up into 30 SMAs. This is kind of the same thing. You notice that we spike into the 30 SMA and that acts as a bit of a resistance. Like this, there's a reason why I follow these moving averages.
Mm-hmm.
So I would argue that we're at 30 SMA moving average resistance. The question now is, can we accept above here? If we can, then awesome. And this is probably exactly the same thing as the last one we talked about. Is this some sort of inverted head and shoulder? So left shoulder, neckline, head, neckline, right shoulder, breakout. So that's what I would be thinking. And then also too, this lends support to that sort of saucer bottom kind of thinking, right? So this might even be, if you're really lucky, this is an even bigger left shoulder, neckline, head, neckline, right shoulder, breakout, right? So that's what I kind of that's what I would be if I'm a bull and I believe in this story. That's what I want to see. Something, and this is called a fractal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the way the universe works. The easier way for you to think about this in the public is just try and think of that saucer bottom kind of thinking. So, what this implies is, I think, that we still need to go through the process of stopping the bear. Do you see how we're making lower highs and lower lows? Lower
Yeah.
highs and lower lows. Lower highs and lower lows. You see that?
Yes, sir.
Because of that, you can't assume that this thing is a bull. All you can assume is that we are rallying off of the lows, and if we're really lucky, we can consolidate, and then things like these fractals can start firing. We get higher time frame, wider sort of fractal, call it a W, whatever you want to call it, and these moving averages turn back up, and then we literally will do the exact same process. You can see that basically this was just basically working its way down. Well, once we actually get to the bottom and we turn, well, we'll just do exactly the same thing, but heading up. And something like that. I mean, it's just the way capitalism works. So I would say, for anybody who is interested in this name, it's cheap. What would be really interesting is to try and find a complete history chart. Like maybe some of these other places have a
Maybe
little bit
try
more
like
data.
OKEX.
I think OK Coin actually I think they have quite a long history of this thing, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Could be mistaken. Hey, there you go. All right. So now this makes a little more sense, doesn't it? So if we actually look at it from this perspective, and there is the low. You've heard Brian talk about candle body lows for trade location in the
Yes,
past.
sir.
So that level definitely jumps out at me. We could probably also do like a Foggenbaum off of this range. Not Foggenbaum, reload zone. 78.6, 61.8, 88.6 for our venture cap lovers. Oh, interesting. 88.6 is that level. So as I said before, and you can see, do you see how powerful this moving average relationship is? So
Yeah.
right here, we turn back bullish, consolidation, huge rally. Keep in mind that
Then
this is a logarithmic chart. There's your regular chart, eh?
and then when it flipped the next time, it puked out.
That cross negative, and we've basically been in that bear trend since that cross. So we haven't actually turned back up here yet. So please understand that. Yes, I'm going to fully admit it's cheap. We are basically back down against the bottom end of its range. What you'd ideally like to see here, notice this little W down in here, and then notice that huge pop, and then the consolidation, reload zone, Wyckoff check, another W. There's your moving average cross. I mean, this is absolutely beautiful level right in there to get long. Okay? So that's kind of what you want to see here a little bit right now. You'd like to see, give me a little bit of strength, and you can see the 200-week moving average is right there. Then you want to see a pullback, and ideally you'd love to see like a nice little W that sets up the entry. So on a weekly basis, you're still early. And like we said, we just made new lows. So for the investors, I think we're still a bit early.
Gotcha.
Now let's go down to you degen crypto traders. The fact that this thing broke to new lows, I'm sure that broke a lot of people's hearts through here. That was actually just even, less than a month ago. I'd call this a dead cat bounce. There's the 200 period moving average. Rallied, can you see all these wicks up here? See all these trap bulls up here? And notice, hey, we're starting to get wicks again right up in this area, because as soon as price gets up into there, somebody comes out and says, oh, fuck, sell, get me the hell out of there, right? So it shouldn't surprise us that we're going to run into a bunch of resistance here. And then remember on the weekly chart, we conjectured that maybe this is some big honking head and shoulders. So that's your neckline. And then what we should see, and really your tell that this thing is legit, is let's see how the pullback acts. If this is an inverted head and shoulders, we do not go through this low here. So interesting how that's basically right back against all these lows. And then if we do something like drawing reload zones, what do you think the odds are that Brian's going to be super interested in that level right there?
Probably pretty high.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing this so long, you can see this stuff in your sleep. So there you go, yeah. 78.6 to 88.6, your venture cap reload zone. There is your bigger sort of blue chip reload zone. But the point is that if we do rally up into here, I would want to see some sort of pullback down into this level. And then if we can get nice WE type price structure, I think that's your buy. And that is what, where was that? That's what this kind of price action is, right?
Gotcha.
Well, actually, the breakout, the pullback, Wyckoff check of the original bottom, beautiful double bottom here, and away we go, big bull market. You could try and sneak your way in off of this W here. It's going to be a little bit early, but if anything, I think you can see somewhat the same sort of price action down here. So I would say that comparatively speaking, we are right in sort of this window here. Moving averages are still pointing down. We need to see a nice pop here to cause the moving averages to cross bullish. Notice this nice deep pullback right against these lows. That would be a great trade window right there. We did actually have to come all the way right back down and eat that tail. And again, another great trade window down in that area, right? And just like we did a second ago, if you do reload zones, right? There's 78.6 to 88.6. There's reload zone. You know, this is what I want to see here. And then notice the moving average is all bearish, 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 bearish. But now we're starting to try and turn back up here. So that's if there was going to be a comparative sort of window, I think we're sort of in this particular kind of part of the market right now. So if we go back to today, that's what this sort of looks like. Climbing the wall of worry. I obviously can't buy that right there. But if you are interested in this, what I would just simply say is just keep drawing your reload zones and hunt. You want to work a stink bid? That's fine. 78.6 when we work stink bids off of original market structure bottoms. Although this isn't very pretty structure bottom. It's actually quite ugly. But if we wanted to work stink bids, I don't have a problem throwing in a stink bid down in here. And especially, I really like this low right down in here. Because that to me, that's that. And actually, you tell me, what is this 3 bar pattern? What do I like to call this? Boom, 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 right there.
Oh, is that the doji?
Inverted
Invert.
empire.
Oh, yes,
It's a
yes, yes. I
fractal,
have
right?
that.
If we have put on
Yes.
our fractal tool,
Yes, I have that
um,
drawn out right here. The Empire candlestick, 3 bar reversal, the
yeah,
fractal.
this is an inverted, or think of it as an upside down empire states building.
Gotcha.
So, this dip down into this level here, whoever put the bottom in the market, right? We said that the institutional fingerprint is the bar that made the low plus the preceding bar. So that's those 2 bars right there. Boom, boom. Right? Notice kind of any kind of exploration into this range in here. It got gobbled up. And interesting how this inverted empire, that buy signal from that fractal right there, you can't see it. Can you see the little red
Yeah,
triangle
I can
there?
see it.
Right, that's your little fractal tool to tell you that that's a fractal.
I have a
Um,
note. If you see a fractal on a price chart, you should probably pay attention.
yeah, yeah. It makes what I think it's important that you put all of the ingredients together. So, how do the
Yeah.
ingredients go? What's number one? All right, let's back up. How many reasons
Yeah.
should you have to justify taking a trade?
You have three.
What's number one?
Location.
So, the question here is, if you're thinking about buying here, is this a good location to consider risking your hard-earned money?
Yes.
All right, so that's good. Then number two, what was number two? Do you remember?
Indicator confirmation,
And
specific
ideally, we want to
divergence.
see.
Divergence.
So, do we have signs of momentum divergence here? Look at that MACD. Look how
Yeah.
low it was over here. And then obviously we went to new lows in price, but MACD didn't go anywhere near new
Yeah.
lows, did it? Look at
No.
RSI. RSI has just been climbing higher and higher and higher here. So, do we have signs of momentum divergence?
No.
Maybe think about that again.
Wait.
Higher
Oh,
lows in MACD and
yes.
higher
Yes.
highs, but lower lows in price.
Yes, we do.
So, the easy way for you to do this is just simply take your drawing tool, right? You can see
Yeah.
those are lower lows. Then we take our drawing tool and we see those are higher lows. See that?
Yeah.
So, we've got indicator confirmation in here, and probably this was your final FU move, which is so typical of capitalism, right? Want to wash everybody out, but it makes a divergence in momentum. So then, if you get any reason to get long now, that you have a confirmed momentum divergence, you have great trade location, then you look at your fractal. And if this fractal fires here, then it means actually you have to buy way up here. But you can see buying here was not such a terrible idea.
No.
And up she goes. There was also another fractal that came in here. And interestingly enough, look how you'll often see this happen is that the buy signal will be spat up at exactly the same level. So notice that big fractal there, the buy level is there. And then notice the next fractal that came in, the buy level is right there. I mean, is that an accident that the
No.
buy level happens to be so damn close to each other on both of these fractals? I don't think
No.
it's an accident.
No, sir.
So I think there's your trade. So
Beautiful.
now remember, this is our degen junkie traders. This is not the investors. Remember,
Yeah.
the investors, all we've done here for the traders is all they did was they just rallied it right up into the 200 SMA. And I mean, look at all these fractal signals. Can you see that? Fractal, 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 fractal.
Yeah.
So clearly there's you said, if you ever see a fractal, pay attention. Well, I think this is a visual, you better pay attention to this level. Obviously, there's a hell of a lot of resistance there.
Yeah.
So we don't have a fractal yet, though. Notice that. That's kind of interesting, eh? And of course, if I wanted to buy, like what I just drew here, what an interesting coincidence that reload zones are going to basically be right back into that fractally buying area. 61.8, 78.6, and there was those fractal buy levels. I don't think that's an accident either. So
Drew says next time, Joe, got to do rapid fire with Brian, 5 minutes per altcoin.
Yeah, hey, every single episode, it's always the same. I'm sorry, guys.
It's always,
Hey,
yeah.
some guy on the Daily Brief video on the site yesterday was like, Brian, would you just shut the fuck up and let the other guy talk? So, I mean, that's how bad it is with me. I'm sorry, guys. I talk way too much.
No,
Anyway,
but
I hope you guys are getting
it's
some
all
educational value
learning.
out of this. So,
No, we're learning, and that's the point of these shows is teaching us how to trade and how to make them.
all right.
And but
Let's do
yeah,
one more and then we'll call it a day.
let's see.
And like I said, for anybody who was asking about this, I love this kind of scenario. And if you got that pullback and a nice W down in here, I would be all over this thing.
Gotcha. All right. Well, let's take a quick look at, let's see, I saw VeChain.
All right, what's the symbol?
Is that one VET, VET? I'm pretty sure.
This is on Binance. Is that correct?
Yes. Let's check
Where do you want
in.
to look at this?
Maybe let's see Binance US.
Hey, interesting. Yeah, that usually doesn't have enough data.
Yeah.
Probably, it'd be
KuCoin
nice if
then.
we had a like. I think Gate.io. They've been around forever.
Yeah, but I
So,
don't know how long we've had Gate on Coinigy. I think we've had like KuCoin and stuff better.
all right, let's see what we got here. I mean, I always like to start with higher time frame analysis, and then of course grill you on whether this is trending or not. Wow, holy cheap. So yeah, this is why I
Yep.
kind of like looking at like these kind of
Yeah.
Gate.io has been around a while. So like if we look at this on like say like it should be interesting to see if KuCoin has this data over here. Let's see. Does it? I am thinking, look at him thinking, thinking
But
away.
going
Oh,
back
even
on
more
hitting,
data. Oh, actually, this is good. So actually, it's a good idea that we go through and look at a couple of these. So hopefully everybody can see that, there's your big honking base right there, right? And then you got your breakout on the weekly basis. Hopefully you can see the market started to trend higher. Let's see what we got here. Oh man, is this messy? And typical venture capital, right? They'll do this. They'll watch these lows, and then I think this was the March panic dump, COVID and all that crap.
yep.
You can see how the market recovered off of that, and then the moving averages crossed bullishly, and then you had a huge rally, then a pullback, and actually this might be a good example of good old Mountain Man. Good old, let's see, can we? Yeah, there we go. So yeah, remember I showed you on Bitcoin how that 15 cycle it did the same thing. So
Mm-hmm.
it pulls right back. You could make the argument that that's probably a really important horizontal support and resistance level right off of that high there, and notice that low there. Also too, good reference is if you ever see like a big green candle, and actually we see this on Bitcoin, it's probably going to do the same thing. Notice the big green candle after all of this hoopla is done. Where do they bring the market back to? They actually bring the market right back to where they started this run here.
Yeah.
You see that cute little doji? I mean,
Yes.
I wouldn't even be surprised if you actually zoomed in on this. There's probably even like a little price gap right in there that needed filling in. So, whether this is where Mountain Man kind of concept really helps a lot because this market is booming higher. So you often just get that Mountain Man tag, and the market just doesn't want to go any further down, especially if you have like that doji low. Clearly, somebody stepped in here and said, okay, you could go down if the sellers stopped or came in size. They did not. And there is a fractal signal. So if we had gone through this low, that would be a sell signal there. Never did, right? Doji came in and woohoo, up we go. Um, and the pullbacks do nothing more than they just come in and check this original level here. So that's the kind of move. And notice, look how the moving averages are bullish, right? So this is what we kind of want to see. And I think we're in this phase of the market right now. And a lot of people have said, well, this go round, we're not going to get this big dump because you're just not going to see that COVID thing happen again. I don't know. We'll see. Only time will tell.
To be determined.
What I would just simply say is we want to see that the moving averages are pointing up, and we would like to see things like Wyckoff checks of original or previous market structure bottoms. So let's go see what she looks like now. Boom. Are we in trade location?
Yes.
I'd say it's pretty cheap. If you were going to go risk your hard-earned money and you were going to follow like a little old lady risk model, I would have no problem whatsoever if a customer called me up and said, Brian, I'd like to go pick up a little bit of this VET. I think it's probably a half decent idea. I will not risk more than 5% of my portfolio on this, but I think there's a half decent chance to make some money off this. And I'd probably say, you know what, I'm going to buy you some as your broker, and I will buy myself some at the same time. Yeah. So, we said, what's the sort of the first stop target that we should expect at any given point in time?
38.2.
So if we just look at it from, okay, this thing should bounce. Where should it bounce to? Believe it or not, that's all the way up here.
Yeah.
So that's like, it's, when you zoom in, it's like right off the screen. So that's basically 12 cents, and you're looking at it right now at about 1.5 cents. I don't know whether you see this. What did that LOOM just do? Do you remember? What was the X percentage move on that LOOM?
10x.
Do you see how this is setting up for a 10x?
Yeah.
Do you think that's an accident in capitalism? I don't.
Yes, sir.
So I might argue that this thing's basically telling you it wants to 10x. Now, how long is it going to take to play out? Well, that's anybody's guess. Looking at the weekly chart, we did come off a V bottom. It's interesting how we tested the first like massive weekly breakout level there. That's what this move was here. And we bounced hard off of that. I mean, even that level there, that was 1.6. So did we get to 3.2? That would have been a double. 3.2. That's exactly where we went to. Yeah. Do you think that's an accident?
Not at all.
So notice though, do we have a whole bunch of trap bulls up in here? I think so. Interesting, too, how this wick ran right into those candle body highs. And these trap bulls, they got the hell out of there when that happened. And notice here, right? There's a bunch of trap bulls. They rallied it right into those trap bulls, and they got out of there. So it's almost like every single time we release the trap bulls, we actually create new trap bulls. So we released the trap bulls, but that created a whole bunch of new trap bulls. So I definitely think that there's a bit of supply up for sale up in this 3 and change area.
Okay.
Is this thing trending higher now?
No.
No, that's right. It's not. In fact, hopefully what you see is this big M came in here. And on the confirmation of the M, right, which was right there,
yeah,
you notice that the moving averages crossed back bearish again. So this was a V bottom. I don't really like to trade these V bottoms because what did we say by definition V bottoms and V tops should happen?
When?
No, what should happen to a V bottom and V top? Remember we looked at that altcoin?
Yeah.
I think it was OMG that put in a V top. What did we say should happen down the road?
That's like I'm blanking on the terms, basically like the trend line that you connect the tops off of them.
Well,
Tested.
more importantly, they should be tested.
Tested. Yeah.
So that's why I don't really have a lot of faith in V bottoms. And sure enough, she was tested and they blasted through it. Boosh.
Gotcha.
At least now you can see how we had a new V bottom. They rallied it away from it. They brought the market back down. Candle body lows for trade location. Uh, did these trap bears get released? That's a tough one. And then notice, on this dump, was that a V bottom? They rallied away. They brought the market back down against that low. These are three higher lows now. So you can see that, yes, this level is now being tested. And the confirmation that indeed the bear slide is over is simply going to be that this big W confirms,
Yeah.
right? Boom, right in there. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen. I will say that we do have some nice momentum here. You can see the market is pushing higher. We do still have the moving averages bearish, and this is yet another. We've seen quite a few of these tonight. Of the market is doing nothing more than right now playing at that 30 SMA. But what we might find happen, kind of like here, is we go up through moving average resistance. Then remember, what did I say was going to happen sort of the first week of November? Remember, this is a weekly chart. You
Yeah.
might find that, by next Friday, you get a whole bunch of red candles all of a sudden start appearing. Maybe even something like this. Notice rallied up, tagged the 30 SMA, and then the next candle, bang, right back down. So we can't really assume that this thing's going to break out here unless we actually see next week's candle go up through that high. And you can see how, like last week, as soon as this high was taken out, all right, the bull's still in charge. And then we went and broke this high. Great to see. Bull's still in charge. What we really need to see is follow through next week to believe this is for real. And I think that the really important level here is this high right in here. Because if that high actually comes in, my hunch is the moving averages will be forced to cross back bullish, and that will be like a triple bottom in here, maybe even a quadruple bottom. And also, too, they had the FU move against this low, but I really think that this is sort of the low. Then also, too, if you make the argument of like institutional fingerprints, because this is the candle that made the low, then that means that that is your institutional fingerprint. So again, if we can get up through this high, then that means the institutional players, it might just be some kid who's running this story out of mom's basement. You don't know. But whoever it is that's running this story, the institutional player, if we can get up through here, then that tells me that they've established a floor here. And, then you just start doing your reload zones and all that kind of fun stuff. I might even say, whoops, I'm not quite sure what I just did there. I might even say that if we can get up through this level, then we're going to start to have things like trend lines actually start painting higher lows and higher highs. And really, this is kind of a fun tool. I don't think we've worked with this with you before, but actually markets like to move in channels. Mm-hmm. So you could make the argument that if this double bottom does come in here and confirm, I'm trying to do this without hitting these buttons here.
Yeah.
Then we're going to draw our trend channel off of these lows. There. I'm just eyeballing this. Not really that good at this. But anyway, you can see how that follows along that line. And then you actually drag this study off of that high. But I'd also go right off of that high because that's sort of the last cycle pivot. Like that was a pivot high. This is a pivot low, which actually creates a trend channel, something along those lines.
Interesting.
And that would imply, and again, this is that same sort of conversation. We already talked about it. We've got trade location on all of these assets. And of course, the public is not even the slightest bit interested in this stuff. In fact, if you actually ask the public says this stuff's all garbage. So that's the scenario that I want to see that tells me that a floor is coming in on the market. So do we see something along those lines to paint that saucer bottom? That you know how much I love those saucer bottoms,
Yes,
right?
we
Something
do.
like that. So it's encouraging, definitely. We definitely have trade location. Do we have indicator confirmation? Actually, interesting how bull dips
Yeah.
started to form over here, but I don't know whether they've actually confirmed yet. Notice, we rally up and then we start coming up against these highs and then we stall out. Start coming up against
Yeah.
these highs and then stall out. But actually, I do like what I'm seeing here. Look at that cute little W that's coming in on momentum.
Yeah. I see
And so
that.
the question here, I guess I would have is this higher lows, something along those
Yes.
lines? And let's do Ray. So we've got that situation. It does look to me like there's a bit of a momentum coil here, though. So we talked lots about coils earlier and how they can be sometimes really violent. So just be aware that we might be getting something like this and then something like that. So just that could very easily happen. But uh, that coil is coming in as we sort of turn here. And actually, I do like that kind of thinking because if this thing does have some sort of violent pop up here, RSI, and actually I asked you earlier whether we had done the RSI tutorial with you guys, and I don't
Yeah.
think we have.
You haven't,
So
but
if
I'll
you got
make note
another
of that for
two
next week.
hours, we can sit here and go through the RSI tutorial if you like.
Yeah. We'll make note of it though.
But the point here is that you want to see two W's. The first W sort of breaks the bear inertia. The second W is your actual trade buy signal. So there's one, there's two. I do like that. This not well, maybe might even argue, that actually this might actually be the second W, something along those lines. Maybe we even go like that. So there's one, there's two. That's through the 50 line, which is important because if you get that second W through the 50 line, then that actually is a very, very powerful signal. So
Okay.
that is right there, and that's right there. So if we look at the price, that second W through the 50 line came in right through here. So I'll tell you, this is shaping up. What I like about this is, as we said, the moving average. Come on. Okay. So the moving average resistance is all the way up here. I think that probably pretty good odds that we get a pop up into these levels. Like I said, RSI is spitting up bullish signs. We'd like to see the market pop through this level here and maybe do this over the next day or so. That would be great. And I think you could get a rally all the way up into these levels here, which again, like we said, this is like 1.5, 1.6 cents. There's the little M or W, beg your pardon. And then RSI Ws and stuff. I think you might actually have like a little trader's signal coming in through this consolidation, that breakout there. And that's your RSI double bottom. So that is 1.75. So 1.75 times 2, roughly 1.75, somewhere in that area,
Yeah.
would be 3.4,
It,
3.5, somewhere in that
yeah,
area.
right around there.
And then notice that the neckline is 3.4. And then if we do this channel kind of idea, I think you could actually see channel resistance all the way up in this area up here. I could see that. So that's actually a pretty interesting little trade. If we go down, now that's the weekly chart. So weekly chart is trying to turn back up. My hunch is the daily chart probably looks like maybe like we're a little bit late coming in on this. So I might even say that, saucer bottom, we're in the process of trying to bottom. And the neckline is much, much higher, almost like double the original bottom level. And this thing could get pretty volatile over this period. But remember, this thing has come down like a million miles from its old
Where it
highs.
was. Yeah.
So, these are the kind of names that you can do 10x just back to 38.2s. It's probably going to take a year or so for this thing to really get going. Notice, like, our saucer bottom year doesn't actually come to a fruition until next summer. So don't be surprised. I mean, I don't think this is going to the moon tomorrow, but this is definitely in an area where I would not have a problem whatsoever if little old ladies came to me and said, Brian, I'm interested in picking some of this up. What do you think? Is that a half decent idea? I might even say something like, all right, tell you what, why don't we go and just buy a little bit now because we are at the bottom end of the range, nanny nibbles, little old ladies, blah, blah, blah. And then why don't we, we'll just keep an eye on this and we'll just keep drawing our fib. And if we get any kind of reload zone pullback, I suppose we can go all the way off of there. Wherever this ultimate rally peak is, we'll keep an eye out for another buying window down in that sort of reload zone area. So 61.8 to 78.6. So if you wanted to do some nibbling here just to get a position on the books, I mean, it's not the best level. But considering how cheap this thing is, it's not terrible either. You can clearly see there is that double bottom on the weekly charts where the RSI turned up. I think that's your buy level. So, maybe just throw in a stink bid. That's not even that far away. But I wouldn't be surprised if this thing pops back up. And you notice our reload zone will probably align with this dotted line, which was old historical support and really the bottom of this market. And then we set our institutional fingerprint. So notice how the reload zone would be, nicely in that level as well down in there. So I do like, again, I would be willing to bet 90, maybe 80% of all altcoins, if we looked at them, we'd probably see a very similar type price action.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if you want to make a rational investment decision, tell me a story. What are these guys actually doing? Are they reinventing the wheel? Are they in some sort of business line that is in really, really high demand? Like RNDR. Why is that thing moved up? Well, it's in the graphics chip space, which of course is all about AI and computer processing. I don't know what the story is. Like why is Link moving up? Well, it turns out oracles are very popular right now. That TBR is just zooming higher. It's an oracle, right? So, okay, what do you think? Did we do
I think
this
we
thing
did.
justice?
Yeah, I think so. I think we had a hell of a show tonight.
All right.
I
Well, there
also
you
want to
go.
remind everyone, please be sure to like the video. And if you do want other coins and stuff, I don't know if you want to rapid fire through, please send them through ahead of time, just on Twitter. I put out a tweet every time.
Yeah, I
If
think we only
if
got like one response.
yeah, so
So
we
all
only
you
got one.
guys, and I know like Adam, Omar, TBG, these are all TRIers.
Yeah, let us know if you have any. If you
Just come
listen to
on.
this
When
show.
I retweet this out, you not a bad idea. All you guys follow the Coinigy, but
Right.
just come in here. Like there was only one response here, so we didn't even know whether there was going to be many requests here tonight.
Yeah, so if you want us to power through them, we're gonna get them ahead of time, because then we can kind of gauge how much time we spend on them.
And Joe will say, "Okay, Brian, we got like 20 names, so shut the fuck up and just get to work."
Do my best, but as always, thank you all for joining in tonight. Thank you, Brian, as always, for your expertise. I know we all truly appreciate it. Truly are making a positive difference in the world. So
Sure,
be
hope
sure to
so.
like and subscribe to the channel. And that's all for now. We will see you next time. Take care.
Bye, everybody.